There we go. Every time I do this, I forget how to do it because I don't do it very often. So one of these days, I'll remember, and then I'll actually do it properly. So I hope you're all well. I can see that some of you have been uh, chatting already, um, which is nice to see. Um, yeah, it was. It's quite. As someone was saying here, it is quite chilly today. It definitely felt like winter. But I always get wrapped up warm. I used to going out in all conditions with Keeks. So I've got my big warm coat. That's my most valued possession. But yeah, definitely felt a bit chillier today. Um, Hello to Jenny. Hello to Mark. Hello to Mervyn. Hello to Adrian. Hello to Cherry Cupcake. Not hello to StreamYard because that's just the platform I'm streaming on. Um, Hello to Tracy. Hello to Lily. Hello to Patrick. Hello to Elizabeth. Hello to Douglas. Hello to Stuart. Hello to Ruth. Hello to Tony. Hello to Jeanette. Hello to Poppy. And hello to Annie. So there's a couple of someone suggested doing some news. Hello to Martin. Hello to Tom. Hello to Faye. Someone suggested doing some news at the start of the stream, which I think is a really good idea. So let me mention firstly, the first thing, I've made a list of things I'm going to mention. So the first thing is there's been a minor audio, well, not minor, actually quite irritating audio issue in recent videos, whereby it's at the start, every so often there's a little bit of repetition of a small part of an earlier part of the video occurring. This is not an editing error. This is a YouTube processing error. The file that I post is absolutely fine on my computer. It's because I'm joining together multiple files in the only way that I know how to record videos. And that's causing some sort of processing issue with YouTube. So I'm going to try investigating a slightly different way of doing it, but I really don't have the technical knowledge to know what to do. And there's no one you can ask. It's really hard. I mean, I'm not a big enough YouTuber to ask anyone. So I'll just try a different method and hope it works. I did actually think of something today that might work, but I'll try it. But when you encounter these problems, just so little that you can do about it. I presume people that are more technically proficient and knowledgeable than me can do something, or they can talk to someone because they're a big YouTuber or whatever. But I can't do either of those things, so I just have to try and solve it by myself. So I hope people can be a little bit patient with that. It's not something that I have any control over, unfortunately, at this point in time, but I'll try. So hello to Lynn, hello to Cheryl, hello to Sandra, hello to Martin, hello to Rachel. Thank you for the kind words, Rachel. That means a lot. Thanks to Jenny. Another Rachel Evans, not Rachel Whitfield. And hello to Jonathan. So I'm going to try and go over a few aspects of news, some of which you'll be aware of. Let me see if I can actually succeed in sharing my screen. Doubtful. Didn't work last week. Group layout, cropped layout, spotlight layout, news layout, screen layout, picture. Oh, it's here, isn't it? It's supposed to be this thing. Let's see if this works. It didn't work last week. Right. Can anyone see my screen now? Can you see my screen? I can't see whether you can or not. No, it doesn't work. I give up. I don't know what to do. It's so easy on Zoom. I don't know why it's so difficult on this. Anyway, I'll just read this article to you. Lucy Letby public inquiry report further delayed. So, of course, this was the thermal inquiry report being delayed until April. So I was discussing this recently in a video, and I think Mark asked me about this when I was on Mark's stream. And I just said, I can't predict what's going to happen, but obviously, objectively, it should be delayed further. So now it has been delayed further. So it says here a further update on the timetable will be provided at the end of February 2026. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be crazy enough to ultimately continue and report recommendations, but at least they've recognised that it needs to be delayed. Of course, it needs to be postponed indefinitely. But it was interesting to see that they're pushing it back further still. I'm not sure if anyone has any comments or thoughts on that, but it's an interesting development. Hello to the next realm. Hello to Claire. Yeah, Keeks is down here. Claire, she's I've taken all the bones out of the room today. I'm organised. This is my third stream, so I'm learning steadily what to do and what not to do. And one of the things not to do is to have bones in the room. I thought they'd be safe on the bookcase, but it didn't work out that way. So third world being delayed is certainly a significant eventuality. It will be interesting if people have any comments on that or any questions. I guess to answer a very obvious question you might have is, what do I think will happen in February or April? I have no idea. There could have been high-level discussions. We don't know, but it seems quite possible, maybe even probable, that there have been. Who knows what Lady Thirlwell will do next? It's very difficult to say. I also wanted to read a little bit of this article in the Justice Gap involving Tom Hayes. The article is headlined Tom Hayes, an industry of charlatan experts exploiting the justice system. So this Tom Hayes is the guy who was convicted for libel rigging, but really absolutely ridiculous conviction allegations, and was exonerated by the Supreme Court recently. So it says here, the city trader whose conviction for libel rigging was overturned earlier this year has hit out at charlatan experts unashamedly and avariciously exploiting the criminal justice system. Tom Hayes was addressing a specially convened meeting of the all-party parliamentary group on miscarriages of justice, chaired by the former Conservative Solicitor General, Lord Edward Garnier, KC, exploring growing concerns about the unreliability of expert evidence in courts. So there's further discussion here about a report entitled Forensic Science in England and Wales Pulling Out of the Graveyard Spiral, which calls for urgent action. And this report says, if we want to avoid miscarriages of justice, we need to have strong forensic science sector, which is overtly independent with public trust and confidence delivered by properly funded scientific, presumably I should say science, said Commission co-chair Professor Angela Gallup. So the lack of forensic science was obviously a problem in Lucy's case due to the watering down, which is a generous term, of forensic science in court. And this cost Lucy enormously with regards to the Inchelin cases. I'm going to read some of Tom's comments as well. I was exonerated, Hayes told an audience of MPs, academics and journalists. I was exonerated not by facts, not by what was said or done at my trial, not by, as far as I am concerned, the criminal acts at the core of my trial, but because the legal directions at my trial were so egregious that the Supreme Court said my conviction was unsafe and I wasn't retried. Some people might say, well, that's lucky, the former trader for UPS and Citigroup reflected. Instead, he felt robbed of the opportunity to clear his name. If I'd had a fair trial without the numerous witnesses who perjured themselves, without an unqualified expert, with my own expert witnesses who might have stepped forward, I'm confident I could have won that retrial and put to bed comments to the effect of, he got off on a technicality. He added that anyone who suggested that he got off on a technicality needed to sit in the dock and have 12 people go out and consider your innocence or guilt. Jury directions are not a technicality. Hayes highlighted the complete inequality of arms between the financial firepower of the Crown, with access to the pick of available experts, and defendants dependent upon an ever-shrinking legal aid budget. I'm sure that'll be familiar to people. Reflecting on his own experience, he said there were two types of potential experts: those employed by the financial institutions who wouldn't let them give evidence, and what he called professional experts, whose paymasters were the major banks. They didn't want to be giving evidence on my behalf when their bread and butter was effectively provided by the institutions with whom I was fighting. the former trader said. He said that the expert witness sector had become an industry of professional experts. That's what we should call it, an industry. People are making careers from these fees, good careers, he said. In his case, he reported that the CPS paid one of two prosecution experts £412,000 in fees, whilst his lawyers were unable to instruct a single expert. Sounds familiar again, I'm sure you would agree. He blamed that unqualified evidence for his wrongful conviction. When you're talking about such gargantuan sums of money, it's not surprising how their loyalty often lies with the instructing party, particularly when they're repeatedly instructed. There are too few available or willing to take instructions to work on criminal cases, and honestly, a lot of the time, I couldn't blame them. Why would you when the fees are shockingly bad and the conditions awful? Everything was done at the last minute and in a hurry. They often had to fight for disclosure. We met with experts who said they turn up at court only to speak to the other side's experts and find out they knew things they didn't know about. So this article goes on and on about the problems with expert witnesses. But I guess a kind of an adjunct to this article is that I hope to have Tom on the channel relatively soon. I don't think he'd mind me telling you that he's on holiday at the moment, which he absolutely deserves. But I met him a while ago, and hopefully he's going to come on at some point soon. Yeah, so the other thing, there's been a lot of stuff about Sandy Bohin. I'm not going to read all of that out because I'm sure you've all seen it. There's this article here this is on the ITV website, but it's covered in multiple media. Lucy Letby's lawyers attempt to cast doubt on Guernsey doctor's credibility in appeal bid. The lawyers of Lucy Letby have raised doubts over the credibility of a Guernsey doctor who was a key witness in the child killer's trial. So we heard quite a bit about Ms. Bohin in Manchester. There was a presentation about her. So you'll probably be able to watch that online at some point. And there have been a lot of issues related to her. So, yeah, that's the news that I wanted to highlight from this week. I'll start to read through your comments now. Thirlwell delayed because Lady Justice Thirlwell hasn't finished her knitting. Yeah, that was a memorable comment from Jane. I mean, joking aside, she gets paid an enormous amount of money to do this job, and I understand she's a qualified person. I understand she's a very experienced judge, but it does seem an extraordinary that the amount of money that's sloshing around for these people seems extraordinary to normal working people. I understand that, you know, there are corporations that are owned by shareholders, and these people have astronomical, phenomenal wealth, and someone just doing a job in the legal system has nothing by comparison. But nevertheless, in the most recent figures that I've seen, Lady Thirlwell had earned £500,000. Now, I've not earned £500,000 for a job, for one job before. I'm not sure if anyone here has, but I would assume that they probably haven't. And that's not even the end of the job. I mean, we could be looking at £1 million for her or more. Who knows what she's going to earn out of it? And I know the argument would be you need to pay big money to get the best people, but as this article I've just read to you highlights, it becomes something of a prejudicing factor because there's always the risk that they become more loyal to their earnings than the idea of truth and justice, in my view. I'm not saying Lady Thirlwell is biased because she's been asked to do a job, and she's been asked to run this inquiry in a certain way. And I've said previously, and I'm happy to say this again, I definitely don't feel sorry for her because she's being paid an enormous amount of money and is already wealthy now. But she is in a difficult position because when the inquiry was announced, the climate was very different. When the inquiry began, the climate was still significantly different. And today, she's now got to supposedly say, right, we're going to make recommendations, but those recommendations would follow on the back of an inquiry that was quite obviously not fit for purpose. So she's now in a very difficult position. And I don't feel sorry for her, but I think it's reasonable to acknowledge that. So as to what happens next, I wouldn't like to predict, but we'll have to keep an eye on it in February and indeed April. So Faye's cat is walking over a laptop. It's a problem with animals. They do tend to do what they want. Rachel says this is because there were so many flaws in the original trial. So I'm not sure what you're referencing. So if you want to rephrase that or remind me later, that'd be great. And Liam says, "Evening, Chris." Hello, Liam. Hope you're well. And Vivian says, "Hi, Chris. Keek on everyone." Hello. I don't want to mention that person's name, so I'll just skip that comment. MD in Private Eye is taking a break from the Lucy case in order, as he says, for CCRC to catch up. Do you think this is the right approach? Not sure if this is connected to Thirlwell. Yes, I think it is connected to Thirlwell. I haven't spoken to Philip Hammond, so I don't know. But I think it very clearly is connected. Thirlwell's, pausing to roughly that period of time, so the two coincide. As to whether it's the right approach, I think that what he probably feels is that I've written 32 columns. I've made it bloody obvious that this is a miscarriage of justice and an unsafe conviction. Someone needs to they need to act now. I'll give them time to act, and I'll give them a reasonable period of time to act. And if they don't do anything, then I'll pile on more pressure and I'll start writing about it again. I think that's a very fair approach, and I think Philip Hammond's been very even-handed in everything that he's done, and not sensationalist, as you wouldn't expect from Private Eye, which I know is very highly respected, magazine that will say things that other publications won't, and they'll run the risk of being sued, and they'll go to court and they'll defend themselves, and big respect to them for doing that. So I think he could carry on writing columns for the next 3 months, but I think in a way he's saying my silence says more than anything else. Now get your house in order, otherwise I'll start again. And he also gives him 3 months to compile information for new columns. His last one was kind of a summary of all the most recent news, so he may uncover new, revelations. Who knows what will happen? So I think it is perhaps the right approach. But the fact is, he's a much more experienced journalist than me, so I wouldn't tell him how to do his job. But I think it's actually will be quite effective. Hello to Gary Byrne. Hello to Denise. So Jenny says, Philip Hammond is still posting on Twitter. I wonder if he knows something behind the scenes about the CCRC. He may do. You're going to see when the videos from the 19 Nurses event are released. I'm not sure when that'll be, but I assume it will be fairly soon, because the whole thing's been filmed. Mark talks about the CCRC. Mark McDonald talks about it in the process. So I mentioned that a little bit in the video I've recorded and released today. But Philip Hammond is well connected enough to have a bit of a steer, I would think. So it wouldn't surprise me if he knows a little bit of something, but there'll be more information on that coming soon. Can a proper statistical analysis be completed now? Does the data still exist? Can the review that Professor Jane Hutton should have done be completed now? That's a really good question. I mean, really, to be honest, that's one I would need to put to a statistician, I would think. I think I've written that down on my list of questions to address. I'll try to, if you send me that question again, if you comment on that on a future video, I'll try to hold that back, because I'm going to get there'll be statisticians coming on soon. So I'll try to ask one of them that question at some point. I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that question. They may not know if the data still exists. It's hard to know for sure, but it should do theoretically, I would think. But I'll try and put that to a statistician anyway. Taking a break, Martin. I think they should carry on. The CCRC should get a move on. There is no stopping this, and it's going to hit the fan for all involved. I think everyone can be in agreement that the CCRC should make a relatively rapid decision. It should be very, very obvious that this could be a miscarriage of justice. I mean, that's just blindingly obvious. I don't see how anyone could look at these reports, apart from Liz Hull, of course. She was in court, so she's seen all the court process. But those that weren't in court every day, like Liz, will look at that information more dispassionately and think, well, this very obviously could be a miscarriage of justice. So we'll have to wait and see the time frame. I don't have an inside view on that. I don't have inside information. I've heard a few things. I've heard a few opinions, and I've heard a few kind of steers, I suppose, a little bit, but I don't know when it's going to happen. Just go a bit further down. Hi to Shell. Hope you're well. Great article in the Justice Gap with contributions from Tom Hayes and Stephanie. So I didn't realise Stephanie had been in that article. She was one of the speakers in Manchester, so you'll be hearing more from her soon. Evening, Stuart and chat. Don't forget to like and comment after the stream. That's always appreciated. Elizabeth, thank you very much. Hi, Chris. A good turnout. Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased that so many people come out. It's obviously I've said many times that I really appreciate the support. So thanks again. Hopefully you find these enjoyable. I mean, I didn't know how they would go when I started because I'd never done it before, but I've watched enough people do YouTube streams and also Twitch streams, and I tried to learn a little bit from what they did. So I've tried to incorporate some of their skills and some of their techniques and what they did. Sandy seems to be getting more heat than Dowie Evans. Well, I think that, I mean, I hope you see the talk that I saw yesterday that focused on her. I believe that'll be made public. It was certainly filmed. If you see that talk, you will know why. It will become very clear to you as to why that's happening. Is Mark Mays going to join you? He's a legend. You, Mark Mays, and Jonathan Moore would make an excellent panel. So I've agreed with Mark that I will appear on his stream if he wants me to and if I'm around. Funnily enough, I've asked Jonathan already if he would do a live stream in the future. So and he said yes. So I'll have him on in the future for sure. I know he's done Mark's before. So yeah, I'll definitely have Jonathan on. I haven't had time to organise a guest for any of these streams yet, but I will soon. It's just like I didn't get back till late last night, midnight. I mean, I recorded that video when I got in because I thought I'd like to do something so people who weren't there can hear a little bit about it. I was tired. But even someone said I sounded like I had a cold. No, I was just tired. I don't think I was ill. I had spoken a lot as well. I mean, it was when I was younger, I would have found it weird to be recognised by so many people, but I've a little bit less introverted now, so I got recognised by a lot of people. In fact, as I mentioned, they had me on the ground floor so that I could direct people, and everyone, would recognise me. So it was very strange, but nice. Yeah, I was just very, very tired when I got in, so I didn't have time to arrange anyone to join me, which I really want to do, and I will do when I get around to it. It's just that I just haven't had the time, unfortunately. Oh, right. Back, yeah, that makes sense. It may be your screen is being added backstage, and you need to add it to the stage to share it with viewers. Well, I'll try that next week. Obviously, if I do one next week, I'm saying, obviously by next week I'll have completely forgotten your advice, and but I'll try. The thing is, you use this thing once a week, and then and then you've got to go live. You've got to get it right. You're on YouTube. There's a lot of pressure, and then I almost inevitably forget what to do. But I think you're probably right. I'm sure you're right. So I'll try to get that right next week. Vivian mentions great article in the Justice Gap on the APPG meeting last month with contributions from Tom Hayes, Caroline McCartney, Stephanie Davis, and Professor O'Quigley. So hopefully you'll be hearing more from 3 of those people soon. I don't know Caroline McCartney, unfortunately. But I mean, these are all ideas of people that I could try and get in contact with. I mean, there's so many people that can come on and talk about not only Lucy's case, but the criminal justice system, miscarriages of justice, etc. So I'm always looking out for new guests, and I'm going to try and ramp up the number of interviews in the foreseeable future. Hi to Stuart. Douglas Maxwell Bowen has a new contract with Cheshire Police. I'll take your word for it. I don't know anything about that. Denise says, I have had a traumatic event courtesy of the NHS that changed the course of my life. So I have some idea of the feelings Lucy had. I'm sorry to hear that, Denise. Firstly, I think the most disturbing thing for me is I wouldn't have been naive about the healthcare system. I'm aware that the healthcare system is a bit. The NHS is an enormous organisation. I've discussed this in the stream previously about how a hospital is essentially the biggest local business in 98% of towns in the country. In fact, it's easily 99%, easily, because basically it's only Manchester, London, and Liverpool where it doesn't apply. Where the football club, it's Liverpool, Man United, Man City, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Arsenal are bigger than a hospital in terms of revenue and value. Basically, a big hospital in any other town in the country, even Birmingham, will be the biggest local business. So I'm not naive about the scale of the NHS and the organisation. I mean, everyone's heard about it, but the amount of information I have heard about, problems with the culture of the NHS and so forth is quite incredible, really. It's just I don't know. I mean, it's not. I was gonna say it's worrying, but it's not worrying. It's beyond worrying. It's I don't. It's clearly very, very serious. I think would be a reasonable way of describing it. It's not something that we need to be worried about and think maybe we should investigate that. It's something that we know is a problem and that must be addressed. There was an incredibly moving speech from Martin yesterday, Martin Pittman, very powerful, and I hope you get to see that soon. And I won't spoil it in any way or say anything, but it was awful. What's happened to him is awful, and that's the thin end of the wedge. I mean, he's just one person. This is happening all over the NHS probably every day. So, I think it's. I mean, Denise had a traumatic event. I know she's not necessarily an employee of the NHS. I don't know what a traumatic event was, but it's very, very worrying when you see these figures like 60 million in negligence claims, when you see the raft of maternity crises, when you see the number of healthcare professionals I see in my comment section and others saying, I'm not surprised by what's happened to Lucy. I know about the bullying culture. I know how toxic it is and so forth. Not just the seriousness of their remarks, but the quantity of people that say this is I think it's a very sad reflection on where the healthcare system is. Can you link the Justice Gap article, Poppy? So if someone could please link that in the chat, that would be helpful, because I have only got one pair of hands. I think they're all hiding behind the CCRC now. It's so obvious that Lucy's innocent, and all the CPS witnesses now have no credibility whatsoever. I agree entirely. I mean, they are hiding behind the justice system, not just the CCRC, but procedure, process, jurisprudence, and the Court of Appeal. It's very, very obvious that this is a miscarriage of justice. As you say, it's very obvious that Lucy's innocent. It's very obvious that the witnesses that were in the original court case have given evidence that has, you say, no credibility. Let's be generous and say little credibility compared to what they're up against. And anyone dispassionate looking at our side, if you want to put it in those terms, against their side, there's no comparison. Trevor Chappell says Thirlwell will find however she's directed. I mean, I would tend to agree with that view. She knows what she's required to do. This is unfolding very much in the manner of any public inquiry on any subject that the government runs. It's always exactly the same thing. They say, oh, what we're going to do, let's have an inquiry. Then they define the terms and the parameters of the inquiry. Then they get someone in place who knows what they need to do. They tell them what to do, and then they come to the conclusions that were predetermined before it began. It happens over and over again. So I absolutely agree with your comment. Twitter people are noticing that Thirlwell is now taking down stuff that incriminates the consultants with Baby A. Thirlwell actively pulling down stuff. Yeah. So that's not surprising. It's worrying, concerning, but all this stuff is saved. There's only so much they can do. But yeah, I know that this has been occurring. Thirlwell is delaying because of the growing voices that are getting louder. She doesn't want a name linked to a career-ending report, so she's being sensible and pausing. Yeah, I mean that's a possibility. I mean, at the end of the day, she's not a stupid woman. She's an intelligent woman, no doubt. So maybe she thought at the start, if I just say there's a load of noise, it'll go away. That was rather naive, but by the end of the inquiry, her tone was noticeably different, and I don't think she can possibly be naive about the magnitude of what's occurring and the credibility of those that are questioning her. So I definitely think your opinion there is a possibility. I can't say for sure. There could also be high-level discussions occurring. Very difficult to say. So Denise is mentioning Guernsey. So there's been a lot of stuff occurring in Guernsey, and the talk yesterday was about Guernsey primarily. So that I hope you get to see that. Be very interesting. Michael says hello. Hello, Michael. And Liam Nicholl says, in a way, Thirlwell has been stitched up by the terms of her own inquiry. So absolutely. She's been put in what is an impossible position where she has to pretend that the inquiry is relevant when it very obviously is not relevant. And then she has to make recommendations based on the relevant inquiry that requires her to ignore the documents that the inquiry has produced and gathered together. Preposterous, really. Yeah, so UK Patriots Together is just mentioning Mark McDonald's put a file together about Bohin and Guernsey complaints to the CCRC, which is true. So hopefully that will make a contribution. Hi, Christopher. Is it Chris or Christopher? So most people tend to call me Chris, which is absolutely fine. I don't object to being called Christopher. I use the name Christopher professionally because there's the guy who wrote Brass Eye, and it was in the Day-to-Day, Chris Morris, who's a lot more famous than me, obviously. And it's just to avoid any confusion with him, I suppose, even though like I've got the most boring name in the world and there's like a million people called Christopher Morris. But yeah, Chris is, most people call me Chris, and Chris is fine. Preferred even, I would say. Simone, good to meet in person yesterday. Yeah, it was lovely to meet you. I hope you had a good, I think I'd introduced you to Jonathan. Hope you had a good chat with him. Now up to 28 families complaining about Bowen. Are they all wrong? So I'm not going to comment on this any further because there are legal perils. Let's just say that. I'm rather lucky that I was just a comment about cats, but tries to groom my eyebrows instead. So that sounds fairly hazardous. Thankfully, Keeks just licks me. Like Keeks loves licking my face. That's the thing that she loves. So I don't mind that. That's quite cute. I don't know if I'll be too keen on claws, but she doesn't do that. Hi to Sarah, and Kiko's down here. I don't know if people saw her at the start of the stream, but I'll try to remember to get her up if you remind me at some point. She's just resting at the moment. She's unusually docile, I would describe her as. Yeah, there's some more about Bohin here. So this has all been passed on now to CCRC. So hopefully it's going to help Lucy, as you suggest. Comment on Liz. Are you sure she was in court? So I'm glad I've really perpetuated this idea about her never mentioning the fact she was in court. So I'll try and continue to do that. Do I know of any good books about the history of the legal system? Yeah, I do actually. Well, there's one book I've cited in my book. There's not so much about the history of the legal system, but was written by a very prominent judge. That's a good book. I unfortunately don't have the title in front of me, but if you send me a message in another video, I'll try to dig it up for you and find it for you. But I would recommend that book as a good place to start. So someone's asking me about my book. Unfortunately, I can't yet update you. Hopefully that's coming soon. As soon as I can, I will. So unfortunately, I can't say any more about that at this point in time. Hi to ACL Moss. Hope you're enjoying yourself. You were missed the other day. Think you're selling yourself short about your lives. It's the content that's really important. Yours is solid gold. That's very, very kind. Obviously, I've had a lot of praise and a lot of kind words, and they do mean a lot. And of course, they help motivate me to keep going, although I would keep going whatever. I didn't think I'd be in this position. I thought I'd get a few hundred views here and there, and the level of support has gone way, way beyond my expectations. So thank you for all your kind words. I do appreciate it. more comments about Bauhin that I won't read out because I don't want to get sued. Yeah, I'm just reading a bit down. Are you sure you weren't just on the ground floor because you look like a bouncer? This is a distinct possibility, Mervyn, but I would like to suggest that I couldn't possibly intimidate anyone. Um, I'd like to think that was the case, but I think I'd be the world's least intimidating bouncer. To be fair, I think the only thing I've got in common with a bouncer is like no hair, like shaved head. I think in any form of fighting situation, my inclination would always be to run. Hey, oh yes, so just some hellos among yourselves. So that's good to see. I actually moved out the UK last year due to the incredible mess of the UK justice system. I can relate so much to these so-called expert witnesses that changed lives just to fill their pockets. So I hope you haven't been through. It sounds like you've been through some difficult and unpleasant experiences, which is a shame. I mean, I can honestly say that if I went back to 2.5 years ago, it would be. So if I went back to before August 2023, when I first heard about Lucy's case, I didn't follow the trial at all. I've always emphasised that other people were aware of this before me. I think it was kind of natural for nurses to pay attention. And I've heard quite a few people. I heard someone yesterday say, "I just assumed she would be found not guilty based on what I saw of the evidence following the trial." But unfortunately, as we know, the barristers are very good at presenting a case in a certain way that is convincing. But at that time, if I went back to June 2023, I wouldn't have been completely naive, but I would have been quite significantly naive about the criminal justice system and how bad it is. I had some inkling and some notion, and I knew miscarriage of justice happened, and I knew I didn't have a particularly favourable view of the police, to be honest. But I wouldn't have thought I couldn't have believed that a trial as big as this could be as bad as it was. I don't think I would have believed that, and now I know that it can be, and it can be worse. So, what can you do? So I'm sorry if you've experienced some particular difficulties. Lots of people do. That's why I'm here doing this. And we've all just got to do what we can. And this is not over when Lucy comes out of prison. That's just the beginning. Thank you for your last update. Your analysis always makes sense. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You're an experienced writer, Chris. You're doing really well with live streaming. I wouldn't know where to begin with even making a video. Well, I think that I obviously lean very heavily on my writing and research. I can't do anything impressive with visuals. The audio has been a constant problem. It's better now than it was, but now there's this new problem of processing issues on YouTube, which is very difficult to know what you can do about that, if anything. But basically, I record the screen and I record my voice, and then I know how to hack it together in a rudimentary fashion with the one program I know how to use. That's it, really, and that's my limits. And I will never really be able. Of course, I can interview people on Zoom, and then I know how to save the Zoom file, and I can edit the Zoom file again in a very rudimentary way. That's basically my limits. So I'm really a writer masquerading as a YouTuber, and I lean very heavily on my writing skills and research skills. But I just do the best I can, and I think I recognized after a few videos that I could do something that maybe hadn't been done previously. Because when I never thought of doing YouTube, because I saw films made by other people that were far more accomplished than anything that I could do. But then I realized that I could do these kind of deep dive podcasty type things, and that maybe that would work. And I didn't expect it to work out as well as it has, but I'm really glad I did it. It's been a really enjoyable life experience, and I really value my community very, very highly, and I'll keep going as long as I can breathe. I mean, Lucy's going to come out of prison way before this channel will end. I'll do other content in the future. I'm not sure what that will look like, but I'm not just going to say, right, I'm off now. I would miss you all, and I will find something to do, whether it's in the miscarriage of justice space. Probably it will be, of course, but I might try and find some other relevant things, or even, branch out occasionally into doing something else. And I guess at the moment I don't need to ask for, what would you like to see me record a video on? Maybe I should do that anyway. Maybe I should have done that before now. I just never got around to it. But in the future, when Lucy's exonerated, I mean, I could definitely do that. I could ask people, is there anything you'd like to see on other subject matters? I don't know. But yeah, I'm really grateful for all the support anyway. That was just making a video is what I mean. I could teach you, Rachel, to be honest, but I'd only be able to teach you to do what I can do now. But it's not as hard as you think. Of course, I had to learn how to be used to being on camera. I had to learn how to be used to speaking my own voice. I like to think my presentation's got a little bit better, even though I'm not, I'm not a natural. It didn't necessarily come naturally to me to present because I've not spoken on camera before and I'd not recorded my voice before. So I got used to seeing myself a bit more than I did. I don't think anyone loves watching videos of themselves, and I certainly don't. I'm completely desensitized to hearing my voice now. I mean, so that's a good thing, I suppose. But you could do it. Anyone could do what I do in terms of the recording the video. Obviously, I would like to think I'm a good researcher and that my writing skills help, but recording the video, I mean, I'm really is very rudimentary skills that I'm relying on. Could you get Jolly Contrarian on? So he's on my list. I've not asked him. I'm assuming it's a he, but I could be wrong. It could be a she, but I think it's a he. I've not. Jolly Contrarian may have a biography on the site that I've not read. So if Jolly Contrarian has confirmed his or her gender, although I know gender is complicated nowadays, then I apologise. But yeah, I very much respect the work that Jolly Contrarian has done. And Jolly Contrarian likes cricket, which I'd like to bring up because I just think it'd be amusing. So yeah, I'll try and get him or her on. I'm sure. Well, I mean, it depends on if they want to do it, of course. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. Hi, Chris and Kiko and everyone. Hi, Deborah. Kiko says hello. Well, she just did a bit of a meaningful sigh. Tracy, I'm disabled because of the NHS. I'm very sorry to hear that. It's always awful to hear these things. Of course, yesterday we heard from someone who'd experienced something even more serious than that. So I hope you get to hear that at some point soon. Agreed, Rachel. Chris is such a big part of this campaign and brings and keeps us all together and on the same page. Well, that's very kind. I mean, one of the things I really try to do, I hope I'm successful in this. I try really hard to do this, is to make everyone feel involved and make everyone feel not that they're on the outside, but that they're a little bit on the inside. Because I know that when I first heard about this, all I wanted to do was be in a position where I could help. And now, I mean, I've been so fortunate and I'm so privileged to know so many people. I mean, if this wasn't such a dark and depressing subject, this would be the best time of my life because it's been such an enormous privilege to do all this stuff and to meet all the people I've met. And, it's been incredible. And I don't want to make anyone else feel envious or feel jealous. I want you to feel part of it and to include you and for you to feel that you're making a contribution. So I always try to do that. And it's difficult, of course, because, there's only so much that I can do, but I always try to make everyone feel included. And that's one of my aims for sure. I wonder how many people who believe Lucy to be guilty are now having second thoughts. So I think the answer is a lot. Of course, there's a few hardcore guilty people that will never change their mind because they've made too much of an emotional investment in that position. Objectively, on the evidence, you'd have to be having doubts. I mean, you just have to be. But I mean, one thing I can cite is that numerous people have commented in my comment section have said, I thought she was guilty, and now I know that I was wrong, and now I know it's a miscarriage of justice. So I think a lot of people, but that's very much reflected. I'm going to highlight this in a future video, but anyone can go to the Channel 4 YouTube channel now, go to the recent posting of Lucy's video and go through the comments, and you'll see what the comments are like. It's just blanket. It's so hard to find anyone that even says, I think she's definitely guilty. And when you do, it's always completely incoherent. It's always just some flippant, oh, she's guilty as hell. That's the phrase they like to use sometimes. There's never any reason or any argument. It's just an emotional determination to believe that she's guilty. So I think there'll be many, many people that are having second thoughts or indeed have completely changed their mind by now. It was the NHS Mental Health Services and Dewi Evans type psychiatric social worker who wrote a BS report. Thank God for the forensic services. It was my husband she destroyed, and he's never recovered. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, Denise. I mean, that's awful, obviously. Not a lot else I can say other than I'm really sorry. The number of deaths in psychiatric wards has been a scandal for years and hasn't received enough attention. So I don't know too much about this. I mean, I'm learning every day. I learn things every day. I learn things every day about this case. I learn things every day from people that comment. It's extraordinary, really. I mean, I don't know anything about what you've just said, the number of deaths in psychiatric wards. All I can say is based on what I've learned over these 2 years, it's not surprising to me now. But obviously, that's very worrying. Trevor Chappell's here made a comment about Bohin. Now, what I can tell you is that it's not guaranteed that Bohin would be in a retrial. It's, as far as I understand it, she would have to come in to a Court of Appeal hearing, as would Evans, because they're in the original trial. But Mark McDonald said yesterday, if the conviction is made unsafe, the prosecution will immediately say, we want a retrial, we want to retry her. And he says that's likely to be accepted. So in those circumstances, there are numerous things that the prosecution can do. But one of the things that they can do, indeed that they're likely to do, is get rid of as many experts as they can. Evans won't be in a retrial because he's retired and he's too old and he's a liability. One could very easily argue that Bohin is a liability. That's a decision for the prosecution to make. We'll have to wait and see. Has anyone seen the recent video by True Crime Rocket Science? He seems to favour guilt because of the number of charges. I haven't watched the video, but I'm aware of it. He got a bit of a hammering in the comment section, so I'm sure he probably regrets that. But it's very difficult. If you're, obviously, for my videos, I focus on one topic and I excavate that topic very deeply. If you're talking about numerous topics as he does, you can't go as deep, and it can be very easy to become misled or to give a flippant view that is incorrect or so on and so forth. I suppose that the other Lucy Letby YouTube channel, of which we're all aware, that came out in the immediate aftermath of the trial, slightly different, but a similar thing where he covers numerous court cases and he's come down on the wrong side on this one. And he'll have to live with that the rest of his life. And I don't wish any harm to him. And I think even Jonathan Moore said he actually provided some useful information to himself. So obviously this guy's made a mistake, but I wouldn't be too hard on him. He's had an absolute clobbering in the comment section, which must be awful. It's not something I've experienced. Probably not likely to experience it, but it can't be very pleasant. I see a lot of positive comments for Lucy on various stories. Only those who have no clue about the updates or trolls still believe in the guilt. Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree. It's very clear that that's the case. How could you? How could you look at the evidence and say, oh, yeah, she's 100% guilty beyond reasonable doubt? There's no way. It's just laughable. So, yeah, I completely agree with this comment. I'm sorry to hear that, Tracy. Horrible. Yeah, me too. It is horrible. I also worked in the council chest in the psychiatric wards, and I can tell you firsthand the NHS culture is toxic. Yeah. So I've heard quite a bit about the counter chest. I've heard a lot about the NHS, and it's difficult to disagree with that description. Even though like it can be an overused word, but I think it really does apply here quite strongly. The other problem is people get less angry over time, e.g., Iraq war inquiry. So it is a problem. I'll just have a drink. I think to some extent the state relies on that. They think, "I will do an inquiry, and then over a period of time, um, people will forget." Um, Obviously, it's our job to ensure that doesn't happen. Mark was talking about this yesterday. You'll see hopefully more about that soon. But he was saying it's critical for us to keep campaigning, keep pushing stuff out, keep getting stuff in the public domain. That's our job. And that's what I'll try and do as much as I can. So Denise expressing more issues with her husband, I believe, which is very sad to read about, of course. Glad Thirlwall documents have been saved. So I know Jabe's got every Thirlwall document, I believe, on his site, and other people have saved them on the computers and so forth. So I think it's all safe. Plus, I know that Martin's got them all. I know that the defence have got them all. So I think it's absolutely fine. But it's still, I can't say whether or not it's true. I've seen them delete things in the past. I know some other things about Thirlwall that I can't discuss. And it was not surprising to me, but I'm not specifically aware of these documents being deleted, but of course it's not at all surprising to me. Maybe by the time Thirlwall reports, Dr. Evans will have finalised his own report. Well, surely not. Surely he won't get it that soon. He's just brought this. I could have included this in the news section, the fact that he's brought this report on Baby Q. He only saw the initial notes 8 years ago. It's just, just absolutely ridiculous. The guy is embarrassing. Claudia Vifarelli, hello from Italy. Hello, Claudia. Thank you for following the case from Italy. As I've said before, we very much appreciate it. I think I had someone from Denmark today, or they seem to post a Danish flag. So, yeah, when I see the views, I do have people all over the world watching, of course, in much smaller numbers across Central Europe, but it's not an insignificant percentage of the overall audience, so it's very much appreciated. Isn't there a lot of offshore accounting in Guernsey? I couldn't really comment on that, but it's famously a tax haven, isn't it? So probably. I couldn't really say. It's a place where it's kind of like the poor relation to Monaco, isn't it? Like if you're super rich, you go to Monaco, and if you're quite well off, you go to Guernsey, is my understanding. But there's certainly some tax issues there, I think. So here's a very astute comment here that is absolutely correct. I bet you heard Christopher when your mum called you a very naughty boy. That's absolutely true. And indeed, when people call me Christopher, that's what it reminds me of. So I do tend to prefer Chris, but I don't mind Christopher. But yes, Christopher, don't do this. Christopher, don't do that. Absolutely. Thirlwall insisted the inquiry bear her name. Wonder if she still thinks that was a wise decision. Yeah, good question. I think she's probably backpedaling on that decision pretty rapidly at this point. It's very, I just say I don't feel sorry for her, but I acknowledge she's now in a difficult position. That's undeniable. Simone did have a great chat with Jonathan. Great people who are all rooting for Lucy. Yeah, it was very, I'm sure you would agree, it was very inspiring to be in the room. And it's, it was difficult, wasn't it? Because there's so much dark stuff that we heard, but then there was a lot of inspiring and uplifting stuff as well. And as I said just in my previous answer, I've met so many amazing people, not just very well. Obviously, I've met a lot of very well qualified people who are all brilliant, and I've no vanity or ego about their qualifications and their careers. They're just genuine, down to earth people who want to help, who want to make a difference. So that is, it's been wonderful. But I've met a lot of just everyday people who are not medical experts, who are not medically qualified, who are also brilliant. So that's been, the best part of the whole thing. Obviously, there's not many other enjoyable parts to being immersed in this very dark situation every day, but it's definitely uplifted me. I'm sure I've made friends that'll last the rest of my life, and I've also, it just gives you a little bit of hope that there are people that care, and there are people that are intelligent, there are people that have creative, critical thinking skills, and that will, stick their neck out when no one else will. And as I was saying in the video that I posted today, please don't underestimate the contribution that has been made. It's an enormous contribution that has been made on social media through social platforms. And it literally is the difference between Lucy now being at the point where we may see this referred to the Court of Appeal soon and 10 years from now. Literally 10 years from now. It was, I believe, Colin Norris's appeal, which unfortunately he lost, was it 14 years it took to be heard. As I said previously, the Birmingham 16 years to be exonerated. You've seen these figures in other cases with Peter Sullivan, 38 years. Justin Plummer, that was exonerated this year, I think it's about 25 years. So the only reason I know it's not the time frame people want, but the only reason we're looking at Lucy perhaps being with the Court of Appeal now, and Mark said he thinks the Court of Appeal will turn it around relatively quickly. The only reason we're looking at that is because of the grassroots campaign. It's as simple as that. Because there's been media articles before, there's been experts talking before, there's been all the things that we've seen in Lucy's case have happened before, but they've taken 10, 12, 15 years and sometimes more. The difference in this case is it's happened almost immediately. And it's happened almost immediately because of the grassroots campaign. So all the kind of normal everyday people, of which I'm one, that have no qualifications, no medical experience, but care about the case, who've learned about the case, who've studied the case, it's enormously important. Enormously important. So the question about Joe Rogan. So, well, excuse me, I've got an annoying bit of skin. It's still there. Right, I won't do that anymore. It's annoying. How do we get him involved? Well, I do have a few ideas. Someone has said a bit further down, someone like Joe Rogan would be popular in many of the existing choir, but it would look bad to the general public. Possibly. I mean, it's very hard to say, but the fact remains, this is just my opinion, of course. If you get something on the biggest podcast in the world, it's a big deal. Now, I'm a chess player, as I've mentioned previously. So Magnus Carlsen, who's the best chess player in the world, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, some people were critical of that and said, "Oh, why are you going on that? People don't, he said things that are dubious, etc., etc." But Magnus just thought, well, he's the biggest podcast in the world. I'm happy to do it. It'll promote chess. I'm going to do it. So I do think there's more good than harm that comes from that. Of course, criticism can be made because of it, but if I got the chance to do it, I would do it because I know he's got a massive audience, and he will have people on that no one else will have on, and he'll have big people on, and he gets the big figures, and I respect what he does, and I know that some people are critical, but I think whenever you become as big as he is, you're going to get criticised. I'm not like a fan of Trump, for example, but I'm not a fan of many politicians. David Davis, maybe a couple of others. I don't have an enormously high opinion of the political process and Parliament, but I think if you get the opportunity to be on something that big, you should take it. But we'll have more on that if it ever happens. I'll just move on. Why don't you add that thanks button on your live in case anyone wants to donate to your channel, the cause? So, good question. So I haven't added this. I mean, I get loads of stuff from YouTube. I don't know if I've mentioned this in a video. I can't remember, but they're always asking me to do stuff. Oh no, I was discussing this with someone yesterday. So I got asked to add members to my channel, so I didn't do that because they offered me. I can't discuss the figures, but they offer you a set amount of money to do it, and I just didn't want to do that because I can't offer anything extra to members than I'm giving already, and I don't want to take the whole things back either. So I didn't want people to join as a member and then, feel they're not getting anything for it. So I didn't do that. And similarly with this button, you can do super chats and thanks and all these kind of stuff, which, part of me thinks, well, that would be okay. But then part of me thinks it just isn't the right tone for a channel about the conviction of Lucy Letby. So I felt doubt about, super chat is something that other kind of viral streamers will do, and I absolutely support their right to do that. It just didn't quite sit right with me somehow. But, if people in the comments think it's a great idea to have thanks, I might consider it, but I don't have any plans to introduce it at the moment. Same with Patreon. I've kind of discussed that previously. Does anyone else here like the old TV show Crown Court? They use real members of the public as a jury, and some verdicts really surprised me. I do vaguely recall that. I couldn't say that I was a fan of Crown Court, but I do recall it being on TV. Does anyone know if there are any more screw-ups on the Council of Chester Peds ward besides Dr. ZA? Something tells me there's stuff there too with other consultants. I don't know, Jenny, but there's new stuff being discovered all the time, so it wouldn't surprise me. Rachel Whitfield, I'm pretty new to your channel. I've been wondering exactly where we are with Lucy's case, what's happening at the moment. So I've done a video on this which kind of summarises the current situation that I posted today. Essentially, the case is with the Criminal Cases Review Commission that is part of the appeal system in Britain. They have the power to refer the case to the Court of Appeal, and I believe they will do that. We have an approximate time frame for that occurring. It is believed by Lucy's barrister, Mark MacDonald, that when this occurs, they might take eight months to make a decision in the Court of Appeal, and then there'll be a retrial because the prosecution will demand a retrial, apparently. So that's where we are at the moment. We just have to wait and see what happens. With no medical defence witnesses, the case was lost from the outset. So clearly, Ruth, you're correct. That's a massive problem. It's a massive problem in the criminal justice system. You just heard it was a massive problem in Tom Hayes' trial. It's something that clearly needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Have you ever spoken to Michael McConville? He would be an excellent interview. So again, he's on my list of interviewees to do at some point. So if Michael wants to do that, he'll be very welcome. Panorama provides quite a good link in the US now. Maybe our American cousins will see more of their dodgy reporting methods. Yeah, maybe. Ruth, I remember Crown Court from the 1970s. I'm that old. I didn't want to say that I was very young when Crown Court was on TV, but yes, I wasn't really old enough to properly appreciate it. Rachel, the report from the expert panel has been referred to the criminal case review. Oh, yes, that's just an explanation of what was occurring. I was an advanced paediatric nurse practitioner in a previous life. I've both seen and experienced NHS bullying in all its forms, never doubted Lucy's innocence. Well, that's very interesting to read. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my email address is lucy_letby_analysis@mail.com. I would love to speak to you some more. If you're interested in doing so. If not, then that's absolutely fine. But please do send me an email, lucy_letby_analysis@mail.com, if you do want to speak some more. Please try to discuss with Jade the possibility of extracting some YouTube shorts from your excellent long-form videos. Yeah, we will. We work on those whenever we get a chance, on TikTok as well. By the way, I started my other channel. I will post some more content on that. I just haven't got round to it. I've been so busy. I was also going to this meeting. I pretty much came back exhausted yesterday. I've been doing lots of other stuff that hopefully is going to see the light of day soon. And then I also learned that you have to be very careful about just I thought I could just take a clip from my existing channel and just stick it on the other channel. But apparently that can get you banned for, I've forgotten how reused content, they call it, the reused content policy. So if you want to reuse content, you have to add a load of commentary to it and stuff like that. And it still seems dangerous to me. So I'm going to record some shorter videos for that channel, but I just haven't got around to it due to being very busy. But I'll start to make more shorter videos. I'm going to make a small number, not as many as I'd planned, because it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But I'll try and add some videos to that channel as well. So there's some shorter videos. So the name of that channel, if you want to subscribe, is Lucy Letby Analysis Clips. There's only one video on the channel so far, but there will be some more in the foreseeable future. Hi, Chris. Is it now time to really try and join the dots that all the protagonists possibly know each other? So it's very difficult to prove this, but you heard Stephen Phelps talking about this. I haven't gone into that because I know that I can't prove it and never will be able to prove it. If anyone can do that, and if anyone believes that they can provide solid evidence, tangible evidence on that matter, then I would encourage you to investigate that possibility. It's not a road that I'm going to go down due to a lack of time to investigate what could be a complete dead end. And at this point in time, I can't prove it. I always stick to everything being as... I don't like any supposition or any conjecture because that's Dewey's department. I try to stick to things I can prove. And then in a video some time ago, I discussed all of the legal considerations in doing this. And I'm always aware of those. And I can't go around making accusations or comments that can't be supported evidentially and documented. So I encourage people to investigate that if they wish to do so, but it's not something that I'm able to do. I wouldn't worry too much about the editing. There's nothing so bad that it's distracting. Well, that's good to know. Obviously, I still want to get it right. So I'll try to do that in the future, but I just want people to be advised that it's not actually an editing mistake. It's a YouTube processing issue, which makes it harder. If it was an editing mistake, I could just improve my editing. But as it stands now, that's not the problem. So I'll try and sort it out, but it's good to know it's not too bad. One thing that keeps me up at night is that on a jury I might have convicted. Brainwashing is real. Sadly, I don't think I'm immune. 10 months of storytelling and emotional manipulation. So it's a very self-aware comment. I can't say definitively that I would definitely have considered Lucy not to be guilty beyond reasonable doubt. I think there's a distinct possibility that I would have done. Because I just think if you're going to convict someone for murder, and if you're going to put them away for life sentences, and lots of life sentences, you surely have to be very careful. And for me, it's just an immediate... As soon as someone says, well, we didn't see a single thing, no one saw anything, there's no real solid evidence that points to a method of murder. There's no strong circumstantial evidence like a dead body. Basically, this person was just around. We reckon she was around too much, and we don't like these figures that happened. And then someone's made up these theories of maybe this could have happened. That, for me, immediately is dangerous. Even if the person ultimately turns out to be guilty, it's still always going to be a dangerous conviction because no one has seen anything. There's nothing tangible or solid to cling on to. So I do believe I probably would have... There was at least one person who considered not guilty in every case, apart from the Inchling cases and Child O. So someone could see that there were problems. I'd like to believe that I could have done, but I also agree with you that 10 months of storytelling and emotional manipulation can be very powerful. So thank you for recommending that editing software. I'll take a look at that and see if it helps. I honestly cannot believe the CPS would take you back to trial. It would be such a waste of public money. I actually love to see a couple of people in the witness box, though. Yeah. Well, the thing is, Claire, that the CPS, it's very hard to predict what they would do. I absolutely can see your point of view, and it's completely reasonable, and you could easily be right. I think it's 50-50. half of me thinks surely they're not going to take it back to court. They're going to look utterly ridiculous. But then in a way, they look ridiculous if they don't take it to court, because one of the most significant prosecutions in British history, they're just basically saying, oh, well, actually, we cocked up really badly and it never should have gone to court. They almost have to pretend, well, we still think we have some good evidence in there. So I would, I would still tend to believe they will take it back to court, just because they'll look so ridiculous. They just say, oh, yeah, well, soz. I mean, they tend to take things back to court if they can. They tend to retry things if they can. And they tend not to apologise, as I mentioned earlier. So I think it's likely that they would. But your view is completely logical. Of course, they're going to look so stupid when they can't use any of the experts before because they're all retired or discredited or don't want to do it. And then they have to try and get some new people in, and they're really struggling to get anyone. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them, but we'll have to wait and see. As an American, can tell you that Mark McDonald's strategy, just like American lawyer, I think that's why the judiciary is annoyed. He's more American than British. Yeah. Well, the thing is, who cares if you've annoyed them? Because if he just does a quiet little appeal in the background, they'll just reject it and they'll say, oh, this case is too big to fail. So he has to increase the publicity and he has to increase the campaign. He's absolutely right to do that. And Stephen Phelps has told me this from day one. He's in. I think it's in my book. I think I included this. He told me the public campaign is critical. If you want to exonerate someone, it's critical, because if you don't do that, if you don't have a public campaign, we've seen what's happened in previous cases. It's not as if this is it's not as if there's a small number of cases in which someone appears to be innocent and it takes a very, very long period of time to get them out of prison. So he's absolutely right and absolutely correct in my opinion. And the fact that he may have annoyed a couple of people, well, who cares about annoying them? If you can play by their rules and they just keep the person in prison. So it's like, who cares? If Lucy is exonerated, will her accusers be held accountable for knowingly bearing false witness? Good question. It's very hard to say precisely what will happen to Brewery and Jairam under these circumstances. It's fair to say that there'll be a very lengthy inquiry regarding the Countess of Chester and regarding the police investigation. The police usually weasel away out of everything, though. And a thorough inquiry and possibly other aspects of what has occurred. The expert witnesses would come to mind. I couldn't possibly answer your question with any authority. It's so difficult to say what's going to happen. It really is very difficult to give you even a confident answer, let alone a definitive one. Also, they could have believed what they said. I know that lots of people don't think that, and it's really hard to say for sure one way or another. But in terms of bearing false witness, I've yet to argue, and I don't argue that their beliefs and their concerns were false. I think there was some genuine concern. I think it's clear that they should have recognised that the unit was failing, and that should have helped inform what they did. But it's very difficult to predict exactly what will happen, Claudia. I'm sorry I can't give you a better answer than that. I suggested Joe Rogan just on popularity. You're right, though, political neutrality will be needed, or at least not so obvious. So, I mean, I would, if I got the opportunity, I would 100% go on because of his audience. And, he wouldn't, you've got to bear in mind as well, he wouldn't be scared off by the fact there's a serial killer case and it's a convicted serial killer. He would think, he would look at the credibility of what we have to offer. And if he thought this will make a good show, he would do it. So, I mean, I respect that, and I'm more than happy to do that if the opportunity ever presents itself. I suppose I shouldn't be, so just some comments among yourselves that are difficult to follow. I still can't believe, she's in prison. Please keep the pedal to the metal, Chris. Yeah, so that will be happening. I'll never let up. I'll never slow down. very determined to do what I can to help. So there's no worries about that. Jolly Contrarian is a he. Thank you, Tom. I thought he probably was, but I wasn't 100% sure. I think Ravi is the most likely because of the email which contradicts his evidence. Yeah. I mean, he's facing serious difficulties. I'm sure he's aware of that. Brian says hello. Hi, Brian. Hope you're well. If I'd been on the jury, I'd be upset and angry considering what we know now. I'm sure there must be jury members that are aware. There must be. And whether they're upset and angry, I couldn't say. But I think that would be a very natural reaction, would it not? You would be upset, you would be angry, maybe feelings of guilt as well. But I'm sure some of them will be questioning the decisions that they came to and questioning the evidence. It's lovely to see an informal style of presentation for these videos. I think it's actually more inclusive too. Well, that's nice to know. I mean, I try to keep it as inclusive as I can, so that's good to know. I'm also not a fan of flashy in-your-face editing. Good, because I can't do it. So I'm operating on the maximum of my skills, so that's not going to be anything flashy, I can promise you. It's so nice to see you being celebrated, and well, thank you. I mean, I'm very grateful for all the kind remarks. It means a great deal. Could you get Mark McDonald on for chat? It would be very interesting, as he was, I believe, a theatre nurse before going into law. I haven't asked Mark to do that yet. Of course, I'll get this bit of skin in a second. I can't get it. So it's really annoying. I've sort of decided I won't specifically ask him unless it really feels like the right time. It doesn't feel like the right time now. Mark would have to be very careful about what he said and did. He's trying to keep something of a demarcation between the campaigning side and the legal side, which is absolutely correct, and I've tried to be respectful of that. So I don't want to tread on any toes. Of course, Mark could always say no, but I would rather just keep the two things separate at this point in time. Of course, I know it would be enormous if he came on, but I don't think there are any real plans to do that at this point in time. So someone's asked what's the title of Dr. McConville's book. I don't know, but someone further down has said The Constant Presence, Medical Mythology and the Trial of Lucy Letby. So there you go. Also, just the same person saying it's nice to see you being celebrated and that we can feel like a community standing behind Lucy. So that definitely, well, when I say that was my aim, it wasn't because I didn't know so many people would support me. But as I've had more and more support, I always try to make it feel communal. I'm sorry that I can't just say to you, come on the stream. I know that's what Mark does. I'm sorry I can't say that to you guys, but I must be very careful. I know Mark had a horrible incident and I just can't allow that. So I'm very careful about, I mean, obviously I've invited literally no one on so far, but I will invite people on in the future, but they'll have to be very carefully vetted by me. I'll need to know those people personally. It'll be people that are recognised to yourself. Totally respect what Mark's doing. I mean, I love Mark. Everyone does, rightly so. He's a great human being. And in principle, I completely agree with what he's doing. It's democratizing, but in practice, I need to be very careful about what I do. So, but I'm glad I have helped create that community feel, if indeed that's true. I definitely try to do that. I mean, I was nervous about doing a live stream because I've never done one before, and you know, it's just a learning curve, isn't it? It's like anything, but you just got to get on with it. You just got to get on with it. I mean, I'm a bit more confident about it now, and my reason for doing it was precisely what you've just mentioned, was to try and give something back to the community. So hopefully I've been successful in that aim. Have you heard back from Lord Sumption? So I haven't tried to contact him yet because it's quite an involved process, and I haven't had time simply because of everything that I'm doing. But I will definitely, he's on my list. It won't be forgotten. I can't confidently say he'll come on. I can't even confidently say I'll be able to contact him, but I'll try. Any thoughts on the recent video analysing the baby E timeline? So I thought it was very good. James, very informed, has done brilliant work, not least the website, lucyletbyinnocence.com. And I obviously endorse, I work closely with Jabe, fairly closely. We're not like in constant contact because we're both really busy, but obviously we've worked on the TikTok together with a third person who's here today. And, I'm proud of that because that was just a little idea I had. And the work we've all done on it separately, we've worked together really well, and it's gone way further than I thought it would have done. And hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, our top video has been seen by 650,000 people, and we've regularly had tens of thousands, and we've regularly had hundreds of thousands. So Jabe's been great, and I really recommend people to watch that video. Do you think if Lucy is free, her safety is at risk from those who believe she's guilty? I've always believed she's innocent, which I agree with you on that. I couldn't definitively answer your question, but I think that there is a distinct possibility that her safety would be at risk. That will be something that she'll be advised on by people that are a lot more qualified than me. But I think it would be naive for us to think that Lucy is not at any risk and that there couldn't be some risk if she just came back out into the community. Having said that, other people that have been exonerated have done just that. So who knows? I couldn't tell you for sure. How come the jury weren't allowed to decide whether the RCPCH report was worthy of being given in evidence? Lord only knows. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. It's very, very obvious that the RCPCH report should be in the court case. Very obvious. And why you wouldn't allow the jury to decide that, I don't know. When I know what you're getting at as well, because that's what happened with Dr. Evans. So Dr. Evans, they wanted to throw him out the court case, and he should have been thrown out. And the judge decided, oh well, the jury can decide that for themselves. So I don't have a good answer to your question. It's just yet another unfair part of the court case, basically. Crazy to me they're not 100% sure if it was Central or GMT time. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this court case that is pretty unbelievable. I always thought she was not guilty except for the short time between the first Panorama documentary and the Channel 5 documentary. Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean, it doesn't matter what you thought at any given time. It's just, we all have different views on different things at different times. I thought she was guilty for 30 minutes. And then I realized that it could easily be a miscarriage of justice. But, it doesn't matter as long as you come around, as long as you're always willing. We all have different beliefs. As long as you always keep an open mind, always know that you could be wrong, always examine new evidence, and always be willing to change your mind. That's all anyone could ever do. Has Thirlwall been delayed because they are predicting retrial or exoneration? I think it must have played a part that they know there's a appeals process going on, and that must have played a role. I can't. These kind of questions I can't answer definitively, but it would be very surprising if it hadn't played a role. The shift chart was what caused me to start doubting. I assume guilt based on radio news stories. Yeah, it's easy to do that. We have busy lives. You're probably doing other things. The thing is that you had the wherewithal and the critical thinking ability to question your initial assumption. And the main thing is that you're here now. How quick was the first death after Bang with a Bang text? Very good question. I haven't got a clue. Let me look that up and see if I can find out when she sent this text. I don't actually know that off the top of my head. You stumped me there. I'm impressed. See if I can find out when this was sent. I don't think it's going to be easy to find out though. So this is in June 2016. Yeah. Difficult to answer that question quickly. Yeah. Difficult to answer. It sounds like within days, 72 hours. There we go. Got the answer eventually. So within 72 hours of the Back with a Bang text, children O and P had died. Yeah. So there's your answer. Yeah. There's a comment here about Michael McConville talking about the well-being of the infants. Now, it's not perhaps entirely true to say that their well-being wasn't mentioned in court, but I can't say definitively it wasn't mentioned, but it was nowhere near mentioned enough, and it was nowhere near emphasized enough. And the court was given a completely misleading impression, because basically what happened in court was a lot of people think it's all Dr. Evans. The actual new medical evidence was a very small part of the trial. Most of the trial was people from the hospital saying, "Oh, we had no idea what was going on." As I showed you in my previous video, not the last one I produced, but the one before that, where I went over the very well comments. This infant was very well. This infant was very well. That's just one phrase. There was lots of others that we used, and they'd have days of the hospital staff saying, "Oh, the baby was absolutely fine." Then it just collapsed for no reason. We had no idea what was going on. Of course, the reason they had no idea what was going on was the same reason the baby collapsed. But that's what the jury heard. The jury basically heard this infant was fine, then it collapsed for no reason. And then Dr. Evans comes in right at the end and goes, "Oh, it must be due to the injection of air." So it's actually a myth that there was a lot of medical evidence in the court case. I'm going to cover this in a future video. I find that people who still believe Lucy's guilty are ignorant of the facts of the case. So I think it's not just ignorance, they haven't looked them up at all. So, I mean, the comment I often get, and I still see it, is she confessed in her diary. I mean, if you're going to say she confessed, at least use the right source for the confession, And obviously the handover sheets, as you know, they're the bane of my existence. Fair enough. I don't think mass comments are likely to convince him of anything. I don't know what you're referencing there, unfortunately. You're doing amazing. Thank you very much. I do the best that I can. The 19 Nurses leaflet is a good summary and introduction at times when you have to tell someone you come across the chill factor, which is very real. Yeah, that's they were handing those out yesterday. I really, do endorse that completely. I agree with you. And since when is a baby born at 31 weeks in good condition? They haven't matured in any way to survive on their own. So every single infant in this case was premature, apart from child D. And child D was there was very poor treatment on the unit and massive problems. Yeah, I agree. We have to work hard to keep this live. Yeah, absolutely. So Marcus emphasized this. So we've all just got to keep going, doing whatever we can, whenever we can do it. Chris, when Lucy covered breaks, how ill were the babies really before the break cover? The reality is that they were ill, very ill, and they didn't suddenly collapse. That's just not true. The only reason that this has been communicated to the jury is due to ignorance on the unit, essentially. It's just it's undeniable that a lot of these infants were very unwell. It's as simple as that. I think to call it unwell doesn't even cover it. I mean, they were chronically ill. Councillor Chester is as rough as dogs. I don't like the comparison with dogs, but otherwise I agree. Who will be the next Lucy Letby they'll blame? Well, Lucy's going to be exonerated, and then there'll be a massive inquiry into the hospital. We have got to do something, and this is incumbent on all of us. We collectively as a community have got to do something to ensure, as an example, the nurse in Birmingham is not charged. And as another example, other nurses aren't put in the same position again. It's something that I feel very strongly about, and I'll be working this field the rest of my life because I'll do whatever I can. I don't know what that will be, but we've just got to stop this happening, or at least diminish the likelihood of it happening. I believe that the shift rota was redone for effect to make it look like Lucy was doing all those shifts, but I think whether she did all those shifts or not doesn't make her guilty. Absolutely. I mean, even if she was on shift every time, it still doesn't mean she's guilty. The fact is that chart is played wrong. But that's another story entirely. I tend to ignore silly comments on X now. I think some of them are old trolls with new aliases because people start ignoring them. Yeah, I mean, I don't pay any attention to them, but they're entitled to post their crap if it makes them happy. Yeah, people are still talking about things debunked at the start. Of course, I mentioned the handover sheets. I mentioned the diary. Yeah, it is difficult for the casual observer. I agree. Hi, Chris. Why didn't you invite Jolly? He would have been a great addition to the talks. Well, it's not that I didn't invite him. I haven't invited him. There's two different things. I haven't got around to it. I've invited other people. I definitely intend to invite him. If he wants to do it, he'll 100% be on the channel at some point. It's just literally, I've got a big list of people. And I just think, who shall I invite first? I'll invite these people. There's no real method to it. But he's definitely on my list, and I hope to have him on relatively soon. And if he wants to do it, I mean, if anyone's in contact, if anyone communicates with him, please do let him know that I'd like to have him on and to drop me an email. You know my email address. I'd love to hear from him. I'll have him on ASAP. Is there ever a tipping point where there is so much public outrage that the government has to intervene and escalate the speed of things? So the government has created, you may not know the history of this, Rachel, but the government created the Criminal Cases Review Commission because of the Birmingham Six. So in the case of the Birmingham Six, at that time, it was necessary for, if you wanted to overturn a miscarriage of justice, you had to get a minister to take up your case. So this was deemed inefficient, which is a reasonable position, of course. The problem is the CCRC has proven to be less efficient than going to a minister, and they've overturned less things. And it's become more and more watered down in its modus operandi over the years. So theoretically, the government is not supposed to intervene because the CCRC is supposed to have taken that role. But there's always the possibility where there could be so much public outrage that something has to be done. So if we can keep up the political pressure, it obviously helps. But also, the government and MPs generally will be very resistant to doing this because there's supposed to be a division between the judiciary and the state. It's not as official. It's not as kind of officially divided as it is in America, where there's a three branch of the government. I always forget one. There's the legislative, the judiciary, and I've forgotten what the other one is now. But it's not as officially separation of powers. But if you write to your MP, they'll say, we can't get involved in a court case, even though the government does get involved in court cases. But we'll see. We'll see if anyone in politics other than David Davis does anything. Do you think Thirlwell is fully aware of how serious the concerns are about miscarriage of justice or remaining in a bubble? She will be absolutely aware of it, no doubt. It's quite likely there's been high-level discussions, in my opinion. Hi, Chris. Would you ever be able to discuss the information that you know but cannot currently discuss? That's a very good question. The reasons that I don't discuss things can vary. So some of the information I haven't discussed will come out, and it will come out on this channel. Other stuff depends on certain legal reasons. So it depends. But some of it will come out 100%. Oh, I just pressed the mouse. Whoops. I accidentally scrolled down there. Thirlwell is thinking of her legacy and her decision-making now. I mean, this is possible, but I think she will also be genuinely concerned about, wow, I don't want to make stupid recommendations when there's a lot at stake and it's looking very, very possible that there could be a miscarriage of justice. Let me just concentrate on pouring water because this could be a disaster if I don't do it well. There we go. If Evans and Bowen are not available for the prosecution and the appeal, how will they manage a retrial? Surely they will see the defence case is too strong and concede. That's very possible. If they can't attract experts, which could be very difficult, they could concede. But they will have a period of time to decide this, and they may string it out for a long time. Who knows what they're going to do? But they will find it difficult to put a team together, no doubt. Thanks, Chris. It was in 2011. I'm good now, but not married. However, I did make sure he had all the help he needed first. That's very, very good of you. It's awful to hear these things, but at the same time, even if it's a a disturbing or upsetting story, I still like to hear people's personal journeys and why they might be here. And I'm sure that's a big part of your reason for being here, and I'm sure that's a big part of why you saw red flags in Lucy's case. I think our government will say that the normal appeals process is underway and there's nothing they can do due to separation of powers. This might not be true, but I think it's what they would say. Yeah, you're correct. Susie Holt, there's a comment about here. My brother is always Christopher to me, so all of us get called Christopher too. I don't mind being called Christopher. It doesn't bother me. It just does remind me of, why haven't you washed up? Why is your room a mess? Why have you done this? Why have you done that? Not that I was a bad child, of course. Nothing could be further from the truth. She was with Rafi and Brewery at the police meeting, put pressure on her like Bohin. Women need to, I agree with you on your comment there, Jenny, about women need to protect women. I think one of the most, in a way it doesn't affect me, because as you may have noticed, I'm not a woman, but I think it's very upsetting, or should be considered upsetting, that some of the biggest pro-guilt activists have been females. And I think part of the reason for that is that it involves babies. And as soon as they hear babies have been harmed, it's particularly upsetting for them for obvious biological reasons. And I must say, mitigation, that of course some of Lucy's strongest supporters are female. Many of Lucy's strongest supporters are female. But with that being said, to see Judith, to see the attitude that they had towards her of like, oh, I didn't like what she was wearing in literally comments on her dress and her attire, and comments about, oh, she wasn't emotional enough. I think that's very disappointing to hear from a woman. Kiko's just woken up. Come here, Keeks. Good girl. I think it's very disappointing to hear that from women. I completely agree with your comments. So do you know what? When we had trolls in previous weeks, that really helped because it took up the comments. So I'm miles behind. So I probably won't get to the end of these comments because we're done an hour and a half and I'm only at 7:56 p.m. So we've had very consistent 150 plus viewers. So thank you for everyone for joining us. And if I don't get through all the question, like Mark said once that I was a Trojan, but Mark does these incredible live streams that go on for hours, and I am now already hungry, so I'm unlikely to do much beyond 3 hours. But I'll try and make 3 hours like the benchmark of these live streams. But I don't think I'm going to get through all the questions and comments today. That's what one of the Birmingham 6 said. Public support makes all the difference. Absolutely. So the comment is, I'm paraphrasing slightly. It wasn't the courts that got us out of prison. It wasn't the government that got us out of prison. It wasn't the criminal justice system that got us out of prison. I'll tell you what got us out of prison: public opinion. And public opinion is critical. It was critical in the case of the Birmingham 6. It's critical in Lucy's case. Crime Scene to Courtroom published a video summary of the strongest allegations in the witch hunt. I found none of those allegations rose to the level of evidence. Your critique of those points would be helpful. If I feel it's appropriate for me to do that in the future, I will. I have several reservations. Firstly, and I think the most important one is, I don't want to put the boot into this gentleman because I don't believe him to be a bad person, and his videos will be online forever, where he very strongly came down on the side of guilt, in my opinion. And I think most people would share that opinion. I don't want to kick someone while they're down. It's just not my nature. And I there were definitely times when I felt resentful towards him, but I don't feel that way now. I realise he just got taken in. He was in court. The barrister's a very skillful communicator. They know what they're doing, and he got taken in. I don't want to really give him a kicking unless I absolutely have to. If I was going to do this, I would not reference his original video. I would just go through the points. I may consider doing that, and it is a good suggestion. But I firstly don't like to do that. I don't like to piggyback off someone else, and I don't like to encourage conflict because I don't like conflict and I don't seek it in any way. And I don't understand why people with opposing views can't coexist peacefully and just discuss things. I don't like the modern internet culture of everything has to, I do believe that the pro-innocent side, I do believe our conduct is far better. I do believe that, but nevertheless, I don't wish to encourage any conflict because I already know we're right. So why am I arguing with someone I know is wrong? It just doesn't serve any purpose. But as I've said, if people want to, I've said this before, I'll probably say it again. But if there are pro-guilty people who want to come on the channel, my email's out there. It's lucy_letby_analysis@mail.com. I'm more than happy to interview you. But as I've mentioned, I will put you up against healthcare professionals. I've got a neonatologist who can come on. I've got pediatrics who can come on, pediatricians. I've potentially got a vascular surgeon, although it may be tricky. He's involved with the defence now. I've got obstetrician who can come on. I've got many general practitioners, other specialisms who can come on. I've got people from chemistry who could come on. I've got nurses that can come on. I've got statisticians that can come on. I've got other experts that can come on. Very happy to put you up against those people. If you're so adamant that Lucy Letby is guilty, it won't be a problem for you to argue against them. And as I say, I'm perfectly happy for people to come on with their own experts. So if you're a pro-guilty person, you want to argue in favour of guilt, you're very well. My email address is out there. Send me an email. I'll arrange it. You can come on the channel as soon as possible. And you can bring on any of the doctors that you know and any of the experts that you know, and they're welcome to come on with you if you know any medical professionals, which you don't. So, but I'm very happy for that to happen. So yeah, I don't like to encourage conflict, but I won't shy away from a guilty debate if in discussion, if there's someone out there who wants to put themselves up to it, but I will referee it, and you'll be up against healthcare professionals, and you can bring on anyone you want. I believe this. So yeah, read that already. Do we know exactly what doctors were on for the deaths and who was on call at the times of harm? Yes, we do, pretty much, because the deaths who were on the doctors who were on when infants died were part of the proceedings during the court case. So, for example, I highlighted in my video of Liz Hull and Dr. John Gibbs that John Gibbs was on, I think, for Child C, if I remember rightly. But yeah, we do pretty much know. Are the prosecutions certain to call for a retrial? It didn't happen in the Lucy Letby case. This is Britain, though. That's the Netherlands. This is Britain. Stuart Gillam has just released an interesting video on Bohin Cheshire Police, which may develop. Yeah. I'll look forward to seeing that. I haven't seen it yet. They're not certain to call for a retrial, but I believe Mark was adamant that they would. Mark knows more than me. Mark's Lucy's barrister, so I wouldn't wish to disagree with that. If you're going to use selected data, then you need to have a clear and objective selection criteria. Yeah, that's one of the major problems with it, with the shift chart, of course. People will go to devious measures to escape accountability and responsibility. Lucy was definitely scapegoated. Yeah, of course. And we should also know that once Lucy is exonerated, which is inevitable, only the time scale, which is not inevitable, it's very clear that those who accused her and those who were involved in the investigation and others face potentially serious consequences. That's quite obvious. So you would take all measures you could to protect yourself. I can't really criticize them too much for that. Whatever they definitely face the potential end of their careers. That would be almost a good outcome for them. I believe a real trial will just collapse as there will be no medical experts for the prosecution. That's very possible, Ruth, as we've discussed. Does the Court of Appeal have the authority to decide to hear an appeal without waiting for a referral from the CCRC? No, they don't. It's the CCRC's decision to refer the case back to the Court of Appeal. It's a little-known fact that Chris plays chess. Indeed, he hardly mentioned it, just like Liz Hull in attending the trial. Yeah. Maybe I mention it too often. I don't know, but it's my main hobby. So, not a good time to be a Trump fan. Possibly not. I won't comment on it any further. Any chance for an interview with Black Belt Barrister? So he is on my list as well. I will contact him when I believe the time is right. But I mean, I'm very, I very much admire what he's done, building an enormous channel on YouTube, which is not easy to do. And I would love to have him on, and I respect him for speaking out on Lucy's case. So, yeah, if he wants to do it, when I contact him, I'd love to have him on. We'll wait and see whether he wants to do it. And of course, I would go on his channel in the future when it was appropriate. More than happy to do that. Just scrolling down a bit. That makes sense. Thank you. Just feel very eager to show my enthusiasm for what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, I never, even if people say criticism or what could be regarded as criticism, I'd never take it that way. I just take it as feedback. So I don't mind any questions or any comments. I just take them in my stride if I can. There's a psychologist you've probably heard of that has a big following. Her name is Emma Kenny. She's been on lots of docs. Yeah. Let me just note her name down. The thing is, I don't know anything about her, so I'll just note her name down and we'll consider her in the future. My biggest issue about Rogan is that he's considered a crank, especially in medical matters. If it was a sport issue, no problem. I understand that. But we're also looking at millions and millions of viewers potentially. So I take your point. But the thing is, I know he won't pull any punches, and he will, if he wants to do it, he'll do it. So I would definitely consider it. I mean, I would do it if he would consider me, I suppose, or anyone else from Lucy's case. Someone talking about Crown Court, yeah, I do remember it. But I was very young when it used to be on telly. So, do you think the Court of Appeal would be swifter if those in control of it were personally accountable for the time that they are robbing from Lucy's life? A good question. Very difficult for me to answer that question. What you have to understand is that one of the reasons for the tardiness of the legal system is that because it's not fit for purpose, there's loads of appeals. There's loads of people. There's less high-profile cases where people are probably also innocent, and they're asking for the Court of Appeal and the CCRC to deal with their case. So that is what causes the blockages in the system. So it's not just we kind of assume, and maybe with some justification, that there is an unwillingness to look at these cases, but sometimes they just haven't got the time because there's too many, and they're underfunded, and as I say, it's not fit for purpose. Just going a bit further down. If Dr. Evans was called in a retrial, the defence will spend hours saying, but on this, on this date he said this, and later he can't. It would be. I mean, he did badly in the first trial. Can you imagine the calamity of calling him as a witness now? There's no way he has. I mean, it's going to be tough for him in the Court of Appeal. He's going to be absolutely humiliated, but he has to be in the Court of Appeal, as far as I understand it. He will. I mean, would you call him as a retrial witness? Absolutely not. No one would. No one in their right mind would have him in the case. I don't think the reused content is against clips channels, more spammers. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. But they can, YouTube, if they think you've reused content, they can limit your channel and do other things. So I have to be careful about that. We've been conditioned by TV that there is always a guilty murder at the end. Only this time there isn't a murder, and we are into the 125th episode, but the police are still swimming in the swamp. Yeah, absolutely. Agree completely. So an interesting comment here. I remember watching Crown Court. I also remember being annoyed at how adversarial it could be. And this is where we are now. So I think we can see that there are problems with an adversarial approach. It's interesting that Stephen Phelps said that in some cases he believes it's a good thing, but in other cases an inquisitorial approach would be better. So he knows a lot about court cases, so I definitely think his view has credibility. I don't think the legal system get its head around the idea that not all stats are independent, so you can't just multiply them together. Well, I think broadly speaking, the general grasp of mathematics and statistics is very poor. And I mean, I can remember explaining to someone on Reddit. Someone was saying to me with regard to Lucy's case, oh, this 99% likely, or it's only 1% of the time this is happening. So I said, well, what you have to understand is if something is occurring 1% of the time in a massive system such as the NHS, that means it'll happen every single year, and it'll probably happen every single year in several hospitals. And to be fair to their credit, they said, "Oh yeah, that's a good point." But that's an indication of, people don't have a good grasp of mathematics and statistics. I think this is partly why there's this push for people to be in STEM subjects. I must say it was never my interest, although I'm quite good at maths, to be fair. But my interest was always in the arts. But yeah, generally speaking, stats are not. It's not an area where people are generally very strong. So of course, that's just reflecting the court system. Please advise what would be the most effective in writing to my MP. What else can we do? Thank you, Pam. So Pam, when you write to your MP, that's definitely worth doing. The more people that write to the MPs, the better it is. If you go back and watch, I think it was in my Q&A video. If you look at my most recent Q&A video, someone provided a big list of things that you can do. So please go back. Someone could put that in the chat, possibly, if you can find it. So please go back and watch that video. Please write to your MP. When you write to your MP will fob you off, right? What you should then do is write them a second letter and say, okay, if you're not willing to do anything for the reasons that you've mentioned, what should I do next? And that's what everyone should do. Once you've written to your MP, almost inevitably they will say, oh, I can't do anything because of the separation of the legal and the government, etc., etc. And they'll say some other things. So just say to them, thank you for your letter. I remain concerned about this topic. Seeing as you're not willing to do anything, what should I do next? And see what they say. Root and branch reform of UK justice system away from adversarial approach. The UK justice system is set up to be esoteric, keeps the legal profession profitable, evidence, logic, and reason is gone. I agree. My observation is they place, these things like probative value on such a pedestal, and the procedure and policy and jurisprudence of the court system, they hold it in such high esteem. And often you can see that in this case, you can see it just has no value. And there's very strong medical evidence that is just being buried beneath this nonsense. But whether that will be reformed, I don't know. But hopefully it will be. Can you see a situation where something comes out, it's so important we get a much quicker release than we're all hoping for? It's not completely impossible. So in terms of evidence, I can't see it happening, because what new evidence could come out? We've got an enormous amount. They can't, because of the number of cases and the nature of a hospital, there can't be a silver bullet at this point, because it's just not possible. So I think the only situation I could see would be a massive political intervention, which would make a difference, of course. What the likelihood is of that, I don't know. I couldn't possibly tell you. How did McDonnell get on in Guernsey? So I've heard a little bit about that meeting. I think that it was favourable, but I can't say too much because I wasn't there and I don't know everything that happened. But I believe it was very favourable. I've written to my MP 3 times about Lucy with no replies. So that's very disappointing, but I know a lot of people have got replies. So I don't know if you want to try a fourth time, but thank you for your efforts. But other people should definitely try. Have we heard from any members of the jury? Are they allowed to comment, or are they under some legal restriction to comment? So I covered this in a previous video. It's quite complicated, but they do have a certain ability to comment, but it is far from simple. We haven't heard from members of the jury. Hopefully, we would hear from them soon. Come here, Keeks. Good girl. So someone's making this comment about my learned friend. So the extent to which you seemingly have to blow smoke up the arse of the judge is very bizarre for me. Would be very inimical to my nature, I must say. So someone's mentioning good articles in the Guernsey paper, so that's absolutely true. One particularly very good one that I've read. How do you think a retrial will play out? I mean, this is essentially a David against Goliath situation. I'm sure Goliath will not fall readily. So I see your point. So we've already discussed why it will be difficult for the prosecution to get medical experts. So that's a big problem immediately. Mark now has an incredible, very powerful team that it's almost unthinkable, and I would say completely unfeasible, that the prosecution team will be as strong. So that's a massive difference immediately. We go from a situation where the prosecution team is much stronger to a situation where the defense team is much stronger, demonstrably, easily, undeniably stronger. And then the second thing you have to take into consideration is, to a great extent, to a large extent, when you begin a retrial, you start from scratch. So the previous convictions don't matter anymore. The only thing is that the jurors may have some preconceived ideas, which is unavoidable. But they're going to hear from 29. There's 29 experts now. By the time of a retrial, there could be 40 or more. Who knows? I mean, there's more people coming forward every day. I know that I've met some of those experts, and they're extraordinary people. And they know it's not just that they're putting evidence forward. They know this is a miscarriage of justice. They know it is. So they're going to go into court and they're going to destroy the prosecution case, destroy it. I agree that it's scary because we just don't know what will happen entirely, and there's always a risk that Lucy could be convicted on one case, but I really think they will just demolish it. It's going to be so one-sided in favour of the defence. Our job is to make this happen quickly and get public opinion behind this. So there's even the possibility that they don't go for a retrial, as others have mentioned. But Mark thinks they will, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. What's the current state of play with the police inquiries into both deaths at Lucy's other places of work and of the Council of Chester staff? And do we know who those staff are yet? So when I was at this recent event, I actually was fortunate enough to ask the first question of Mark, because Mark did a Q&A at the end. And I was going to, if I got the chance to ask a second question, I didn't want to be greedy. I'm already overexposed in this whole campaign, so I didn't want to be greedy. But if I'd have asked a second question, I wanted to ask him about the tube extubation cases. But I think basically the situation is the same with the tube extubation cases and these. Nothing has happened. We may never hear any more about them. That's all I can say. Comment about majority verdicts, which I agree with. There should never have been majority verdicts. One thing I will say is that if there'd been unanimous verdicts, Lucy would still be in prison because there were 3 unanimous cases. Catherine, I was just thinking about the Fall Guys, Hughes and police is the only way they can justify getting it wrong. Yeah. I mean, let me be careful how I phrase this, but the police will have no qualms about blaming Dr. Evans. Simple as that. And I won't say any more on that topic. Why can't Mark McDonnell be her barrister if it goes back to a court? So I won't answer this question because you'll see Mark's video eventually, hopefully quite soon, and he explains this. So I'm trying to not give away too much of that content because when they come out, there'll be great videos for people to watch. 19 nurses have arranged this and want to post the videos. I'm going to try to help them. I may post some of the videos myself. Oh, actually, that's quite a timely comment because she's in the chat here. So yeah, we'll find out what happens with the videos. But I'm trying to help to promote the event and help to promote their group while not telling you everything that happened, so that the videos are like, yeah, we already know this. Chris has already told us everything. The retrial could paint Evans and gang as scapegoats to make out they deceived the legal system. Yeah, that could definitely happen. I wonder if the previous experts can be called by the defence to give some answers and get some consequences. Good question. That's a good question. I mean, I don't think they would do that. But of course, Mark is going to be... I don't know whether he'd be the barrister for a retrial. He said he wouldn't be the barrister in the Court of Appeal. But whoever the barrister is, they are going to be able to destroy the experts in cross-examination. I mean, you couldn't have a worse expert than Dr. Evans, so presumably they'll give a better account themselves. But it's going to be a slaughter in court. Do you remember? I don't know if everyone remembers the record "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter" by Iron Maiden, but it'll be like that. So, comment from 19 Nurses here. Thank you for your input and video. Read the meeting yesterday. It was absolutely my pleasure. I mean, I'm so grateful for you involving me and for what you're doing. And, you know, we're a team, so I'll do anything I can to help. Just scrolling a bit down. Do you have a link with an effective summary of the facts of the faults in the Letby case to send in my email letter to my MP, asking her to put pressure on the right government departments? Also, I did. Can you explain why the conviction of Lucy Letby is fundamentally flawed in 15 minutes? That's a good one. Someone could post that in the chat, perhaps. I'm just looking through my videos to see if I've done another one. I know I did another one recently. Why is Lucy Letby innocent? That's a longer one. It's 45 minutes. The two best ones would be, can you explain why the conviction of Lucy Letby is fundamentally flawed in less than 15 minutes? And the other one is just simply called, why is Lucy Letby innocent? So if someone could post those in the chat as well, that'd be really helpful. I've seen other streamers ask their chat to do this. So hopefully you can do that. Imagine the emotional turmoil and the trial would inflict on Lucy. The chance for exoneration would possibly have been told again, you're guilty. Yeah, but she's just going to have to go through it. I agree. But at the end of the day, as the system stands and as the system believes to be the case, she's a multiple murderer. So she's required to go through that. She has to do it. At least she's being given a shot. At least let's just get to that point as quickly as we can. And Mark, let me say this. I think it's quite likely she won't be in the witness box, because there's going to be so much medical evidence and so much expert evidence that there'll be no need to call her. So I think it's less. She may be called into witness box if they believe that'll be a strong part of the case. But there's also a strong possibility that she won't be in the witness box at all in the retrial because it's not necessary. Can the medical experts be brought back? They can, but it's not inevitable. Difficult for the state to find an expert. Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Plenty of experts would love to present themselves as fighting for justice for the victims of a serial killer. So I've quoted this line before. With when I was in Mark's live chat. It's a line from the Bob Dylan song Subterranean Homesick Blues. And he's a great lyricist. It's a magnificent song with brilliant lyrics. And one that stands out is, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. And experts, if they think they're going to attach themselves to a case that is unbelievably high profile, and they're going to argue a stupid line of argument and lose badly, having been made to look stupid, they're not going to do it because they care about their careers. And yeah, it's a good payday, but no payday is worth being what Dr. Evans is going through right now. You want your content to be freely available. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a guiding principle. If you can support me with my book when that happens, that would be really appreciated. I try to keep everything freely available so that I'd rather have, I've got so much goodwill and I'd just rather keep it that way rather than saying, I know if I started a Patreon, I know people would support it. I know if I put super chats, people would probably support that, but I'd rather just keep things the way they are now and just have the community with the tone that it is now, and not open myself up to potential criticism. And I think as well, keeping things free at the point of access is a great principle. The only way I would do Patreon or anything else would be if I was desperate, and I'm not desperate yet, so I'm not going to do that at the moment. Yeah, some comments about the insulin cases being crazy, so that'll be an interesting aspect of a retrial. They should be held accountable given the criminal aspect, and they didn't ask on their duty of candor, and that can bring criminal charges. Yeah, I see your point. The witnesses can say, we thought we were correct in what we said and we acted in good faith. They can always say that. Very difficult to prove otherwise. Yeah. So 19 nurses is saying she was convicted, this is child C, on a case where the key event was a day that she wasn't even there, which is why Dr. Evans has changed the event in court. And then I'm going to be releasing a video about that soon that I've already recorded. Hopefully, just to let you know while we're on the topic. So let me mention a few things while there's a pause. I'm never going to get to the end of the comments today. So firstly, do go to the 19 Nurses website, do register if you can. That will be very much appreciated. We're trying to build up. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it's our group because I wasn't a founder and I'm not a nurse, but I'm a bit involved. So let me be audacious and say our group. Yeah, we're trying to grow it as much as we can. And I know the ladies that founded it have done phenomenal work and are 100% in Lucy's corner, and other nurses who we believe to have been wrongly convicted. Secondly, I just want to mention the schedule that on Tuesday there's going to be a new interview. I won't mention with who with it can be a surprise. I may post about it though because I think you will want to know. And then on Thursday, I will post this new video I just mentioned. It's about Child C. So there's a question about how to contact Joe Rogan collectively. You could do that, but if you could just hang on at the moment, I do kind of have possible plans to contact some big podcasters, and the time is not quite right to do that. So if I feel I need support, then I'll let you know. But I really appreciate the suggestion. So there's someone saying they favour quashing the conviction, which I favour. However, I must advise you, Mark remains adamant that they will want a retrial. So he knows more about the legal system than me. Yeah, so Ruth is saying no neonatologist or other medical expert has ever agreed with the theories of Evans. So that's very much true. No one has publicly agreed at this point in time. Yeah, so another comment here about the insulin bags being not being tamper free, but not actually never being demonstrated. So we were having a discussion on this next comment. I would love to see video footage of Evans being cross-examined. So I was having I was having a discussion at dinner 2 days ago regarding this. And we all agree that there is no conceivable reason, no legitimate reason why recordings of court cases can't be made available. The technology is there. It's morally and ethically correct. It is right from a transparent perspective of transparent justice. It's something that simply has to happen. I mean, I was saying that if you use the dictation service in ChatGPT, I don't know if anyone's ever used that. I've never shown you it on video, but there's one button you press to send the message to ChatGPT, and there's another button. If you press the button to the left, you can dictate, and then when you stop, it will try and interpret what you've said. It's incredibly accurate. It's phenomenally good. Yes, it makes the odd mistake. Is it definitely worse than the human transcription service? Possibly, but not much worse. So you could use that technology, and that would make it much more affordable. But it should be freely available anyway. So yeah, I mean, I can't see any reason why in America, as an example, you can see entire court cases. You can still go and watch the entire. I've watched bits of it. I've not seen all of it, but you can watch the entire court case of Jeffrey Dahmer. They put the whole thing out to have transparency, and you can still watch him giving his closing statements. You can see the judge's closing statements, etc., etc. Were any of the guilty verdicts unanimous? Yes. Child F, Child O, Child L, the interlink cases and Child O, because they were told for Child O, there's no possible other explanation for this other than Lucy put the tool down the esophagus, which we know is untrue. And they were told someone was definitely poisoning with insulin, which we know is untrue. None of the other cases were unanimous. The New Yorker article reported being banned. Let me knew something was warped early before detailed knowledge of infection from clinicians, ex-doctors, Mark Mays, and many other YouTubers. Yeah, it's a red flag for sure. Even the medical experts from the trial appear to have distanced themselves from Evans. They've been silenced by far, far superior medical experts. Evans is on his own medically speaking. So we don't know what has been said behind closed doors, but I think it's very clear that Dr. Evans has prompted them with his reports, and they've gone a lot. He's probably reassured, oh, don't worry, I know I'm right. You can almost imagine the conversation, can't you? And it's impossible to say what they're feeling, but they could be feeling a good deal of resentment at this point, but we don't know. I agree with you on the original defense strategy. I still think Michael Hall should have been called. I can't see a good reason why. How about others with a big podcast following, like Liam Tufts or James English? The more publicity, the better. So I've made a list of a few. When the time comes and it's the right time, I will seek, input and guidance from my community and suggestions, because I don't know Liam Tufts at all. To be honest, James English rings a bell, but I don't know him well. But he may be on my list. But I have a few that I'd like to do. Yeah, I've got the skin now, by the way. Someone's mentioning, yeah, I've got it now. It was really annoying me. I don't know if anyone else gets dried skin there, but God, it's annoying. Your thoughts on the effectiveness of asking one's MP to help free Lucy? It's an extremely ineffective. It's an extremely low hit rate because MPs don't want to help. But all it needs is one of us to get through to one MP who makes a public statement. You've seen the power of having Sir David Davis and Sir Jeremy Hunt. Imagine if there was a third person that suddenly came out. It would be enormous. So it's like, I guess it's like cold calling or cold emailing. It doesn't have a high strike rate, but the payoffs can be enormous. Dewi Evans won't come on because he knows he's talking nonsense and doesn't like the truth. So I will be writing to him again. I've written to him twice. He completely ignored me previously. I'll write to him a third time and I'll allow him to completely ignore me again because he can't come on. There's just no way. I'm just going a bit further down now. Could they compel Dr. Evans to appear? He must appear in the Court of Appeal, but basically if there's a retrial, the prosecution will select their own experts. They just simply will not select Dr. Evans, and he's retired, so he won't be in the retrial. He will be in the Court of Appeal. A bit further down. Have you made a summary video? So I've mentioned a couple. One is the 15 minutes video and one is the Lucy Letby's innocent video. If you could have a look at those, maybe you could send those to your MP. It might be worth doing. Just going a bit further down. Still going further down. There's some comments about Mark's channel, so I don't know anything about that. Thank you for sending me a template for MPs. I really appreciate that. The letters you've written are really good, by the way. I should have given you more feedback, but I've just been so busy. I just didn't have time. But everything you've written is first class. I repost all the TikTok videos. Thank you for doing that. That's really helpful. Why was Goss allowed to betray his duty by failing to act with impartiality when he should have known better than anyone with the power position? It was his job. So some people have said he wasn't impartial. I can't say that definitively. I can say it's possible that he just didn't understand the case and was complacent. I don't know what the hell. I just don't know enough about court to know what was going on. I can't give you a definitive kind of response to that remark. All I can say is that now I've started to look at some of his direction to the jury. I don't think anyone could reasonably say that it was fair, could they? It was very, very heavily weighted towards the prosecution. I don't believe that's deliberate. I don't want to say it's deliberate, but it doesn't really matter whether it was deliberate or not. The question will be, why didn't the judge manage to give what I would say is reasonable summing up? But we're going to be going over summing up a lot more. I've done chapter 20 and chapter 21. We only have chapters 1 to 19 to go. It's only about 37,000 words or something. So we'll work on that in the closing statement. Does anyone else have the authority to bring a charge of perjury other than the CPS? No, not as far as I understand it. Again, politicians can intervene, state can always intervene, but it's always have to be the CPS that made the decision, at least officially. They can be lent on, of course. I was at the Manchester event yesterday. I feel incredibly privileged to have had the opportunity to attend. I've been a nurse for 16 years. Yeah, I was privileged as well. It was obviously very memorable, as you know, and thank you for what you. Let me just say thank you for what you've done in nursing. Very difficult job, very important job. It can be a very thankless job. Hopefully, there are some good things as well. It can be very rewarding, I would imagine. And I know, I've got to know several nurses quite well now, and as much as they know the downsides, as much as they criticise the NHS, as much as they're concerned about Lucy's case, I still think most of them would still be nurses if you gave them the choice again. Even I know Michelle was on the fence, but I still think she's passionate about neonatal nursing. And I still think she might make the same decision even if she knew what she knew now. So I hope that you find it a rewarding career, and thank you for being in attendance, and thank you for what you've done. Just going a bit further down. Do you think a retrial will happen? Good question. I felt after yesterday, I felt more positive about it than I did previously. I was leaning towards thinking this is going to happen. We're going to get this referred back to the Court of Appeal. It's going to collapse, and there's going to be a retrial. So hopefully, yes. Obviously, we would like to see the quashing of cases, but Mark McDonald says that won't happen. Who knows? So someone's mentioning a potential private prosecution in certain cases. So that's a good point. What I would say about that is private prosecutions are really successful from my experience. What's happening about the Cheshire Police cases in Liverpool? So as I mentioned, that was going to be my second question, but I didn't get the chance to ask Mark. The CPS can spend ages looking at a case, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But I don't think she'll be charged on those cases. There are no scientists. There's a question here. There are no scientists for those cases. The only person working for them is Yoxall, who was a consultant at Liverpool Royal Women's Hospital. It is, as you rightly say, laughable. Yeah, it's funny you should say that, Ruth. I thought Lucy was guilty for about a day. It was when I first saw Evans, I started having doubts, because that was exactly when Martin Pittman first started having doubts, funnily enough. And I think Jonathan Moore as well. So he didn't do Lucy many favours at first, but he's done her a few favours since the court case was over. When Dr. Thornton was talking and he described the 25-week footling breach, yeah, that was amazing. I won't talk about that too much because it will be in future videos and you'll see. And I can't possibly do it justice in the way that he did it. One of the things that was great about the event, I thought, was that the speakers had not only did it cover different bases in terms of specialisms, but they all had a different tone. Like it's Professor Thornton, I should say, not Doctor. He's a real character, very humorous guy. He was so lovely to me when I spoke to him. Very, very respectful, as everyone has been. I mean, I have so much respect for these people that have come out and that have expertise, and they've no ego about what they do. They're just passionate about the truth. They're wonderful people, and we discussed earlier. It's been a real silver lining of this horrible situation that I've met some amazing people. I wonder if any of the parents are now having doubts. Very hard to say. I don't want to discuss that second comment because of legal implications. I don't know whether they're having doubts, but I'm pretty sure I would be. That's all I can say. So someone's read the book on Sally Clark and Kathleen Folbig, reading about Beverly Allett. So that's interesting. Just going a bit further down. So I've got a football question here. Elliot Anderson or Adam Wharton? That's a good question. So I can't see any reason why Bellingham can't play deeper, personally. I know Bellingham likes to play in the number 10 position, but Bellingham's such an ideal deep line midfielder as well. I can't see any reason why you can't get Bellingham and Foden in the same team and have Bellingham play as a number 8 and Foden as a number 10. I know Bellingham wants to play in the number 10 position, but I think Bellingham is a significantly better central midfielder than Elliot Anderson or Adam Wharton. That's just my opinion. I always think back to the Brazil team of 2002, where they just did everything they could to get Roberto Carlos, Cafu, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and Ronaldo in the same team. And then they said to everyone else, right, you've got to run around for this lot. Now, I know we're not talking about the same caliber of players, but that would be what I would like to see done. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a football coach. I too wonder what the parents are thinking. Maybe they are watching Chris now. I believe some who are affected are active on social media and do follow some groups which discuss Lucy Letby innocence. Well, I didn't know that, but of course it would be big if one of them came out. We always try to be really, really respectful towards the parents for obvious reasons. They've been through an awful experience. When you hear some of the testimony was harrowing. It's an awful. When we see the little babies, you don't want to see them come to harm. I mean, it's awful. I won't discuss the families. I mean, I have done a little bit there, very, very small amount, but I really try not to discuss them publicly because they've been through it. So the world expert on confession said after analysis and face-to-face assessment of Lucy, not a confession. So that was a big thing Mark was talking about yesterday. This new expert who has been in previous miscarriage of justice cases, who was a world-leading expert, who has gone through the notes and has done, I think, an excellent job. So that was very interesting. Are witnesses exempt from libel writ? Yes. You can't be sued for libel for anything you say in court. I've cited previously the case of Terry Venables and... No, it's not Terry Venables. Alan Sugar, isn't it? And Brian Clough. Alan Sugar made some remarks about Brian Clough in court that Brian Clough was not particularly happy about. I think he said basically he likes a bit of a backhander, a bung, as it was described at the time, but he said it in court. So Brian Clough couldn't sue him, even though he wanted to. If they lied, it would be contempt of court. Yes, I don't think it's. I don't think that has happened though. I don't think there was lying in court as such. I just think there was a lot of very misleading information. Perjury. Yeah, is absolutely correct. Yeah. So 19 nurses mentioning this nurse in Birmingham who's been under arrest since 2022. It's disgraceful how people's lives are put on hold for years. I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, I mentioned this in a previous video. Unfortunately, it seems likely to me that they are investigating this case still, and they're doing similar thing with Lucy, where they're saying, let's look at every case in Birmingham there's ever been and see if we can pin anything else on her. Otherwise, why won't they charge her or say she's not guilty when they're supposed to be looking at one case, one poisoning? So we're fighting for that woman as well. It is a female nurse. Lucy's case is about not just Lucy, it's about the criminal justice system, it's about other nurses, it's about everyone in this country, because we could all find ourselves in this situation. We don't all work as nurses and it wouldn't all be in relation to a hospital, but Andrew Malkinson was sitting in his house or flat one evening, bang, 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 there's a knock at the door, hello, it's the police, we're arresting you for rape. Wasn't even at the crime scene. So if you think it can't happen to you, it can. There was another phenomenal case highlighted by, I think, the Innocence Project, one of the Innocence Projects, of a gentleman who was completely innocent and was convicted 6 years in prison, only exonerated after he'd served his sentence. And again, he was just sitting in his house one night, right, we're arresting you for this. No, there's no satisfactory evidence. Case eventually was proven to be complete rubbish. Still went to prison for 6 years. Michael O'Brien didn't speak yesterday. I didn't see him, so I don't know if he was there. I think I would have seen him. Hopefully, I know Michael a bit fairly well, and I hope to get him on. And again, he's 11 years in prison, completely innocent. Wasn't at the crime scene. So all of these things it's not just about Lucy. It's not even just about nurses. It's about the rights to a fair trial in this country, which we all take for granted. And I can assure you it's not guaranteed. Let's go a bit further down. You mentioned that Lucy's studying. Any idea what subject? So I don't think I mentioned that because I didn't know that she was. It's like we're in a totalitarian dictatorship where people are arrested and a trial might come when they feel like it. I mean, at least they don't usually disappear, unlike the Soviet Union, but I take your point. So another question, should Phil Foden go to the World Cup? So I've answered that. I've answered that in my previous answer. Of course he should go. He's a brilliant player. Third branch of government in America is the executive. I always forget that one. Of course, it's the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The legislative is the Congress and the Senate. The judicial is the Supreme Court, and the judiciary. The executive is the president. Very simple separation of powers. If I had a son or daughter, I would actively discourage them from going into nursing. I can understand that. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen too much, and I hope that we can all collectively contribute to a climate in which people feel safe to go into nursing, into this very important profession. And that's what we're all fighting for. That's another thing we're fighting for. But essentially, the total collapse of the NHS is already in a bad state now, but it's certainly possible if we don't fight for this. Do you expect that some of the parents will raise claims for medical negligence after the appeal process? Good question. I don't know all the ins and outs of what is legally possible, but it's a distinct possibility, obviously. Whether it's actually legally possible so many years after it occurred, I don't know, but it's obviously a possibility. I think the meaning of nurse has changed so much regarding their duties that it's not worth becoming one unless you are shooting to become a doctor. Interesting point. Just scrolling a bit further down. Government won't get involved. 19 nurses have written to them back with signatures a number of times. This is the problem you face, of course. But at the moment, we're saying they won't get involved. But if the pressure can build, it's not completely inconceivable that they could get involved. Of course, it's not completely. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's a very high bar. Do we know how many of the 13 deaths Lucy was present for yet? So I haven't gone through that fully. We just know that she's not present for many of the collapses. And for some of the collapses when she is present, it's completely unfeasible that she's done anything wrong because of circumstances we know surrounding who's in the room and what's happening. Time for tea. Enjoy. Maybe bone for the dog. So Kiggs is not allowed to have bones during these videos anymore. But I will. She's got. There must be at least, and there must be at least 10 to 12 dog bones in this house scattered around. So she gets to. And then my cleaner is lovely. I require a cleaner for my life because the amount of work I put on this. There's no way I can clean my own house as well to an acceptable standard. So I very much require a cleaner. So my cleaner very kindly brings her a new dog bone every so often. And that's when she's in heaven. When she gets the first dog bone, it's still got meat on it. That's like pure joy for Keeks. And she completely ignores us once she's got it. Is there any truth in the story of a doctor supposedly making a pass at Lucy? It can be. So there's two possibilities. It can be true or it can be just a scurrilous rumor for which there is no substance. We don't know for sure. It's a possibility. She's a fairly attractive young woman, so it's not inconceivable, of course. But I've not seen any evidence. And Lucy, in comments during the grievance procedure, she's asked about rumors, and she denies that there's anything going on. So who knows? Just going a bit further down. You have a very good attitude, Chris. I might be more me in your position. Well, I think it's important. So I know a little bit now about being on YouTube, so I think I should be sensitive to how I would feel if someone was horrible, really horrible to me and really attacked me. It's not possible, of course. But I'm not here to piggyback on other people or attack other people. I'm just here to put. Like I said, I'm going to answer the question, but I just concentrate on doing my own work, and I try to enable and assist those that are doing similar things and those of you in the community. That's my focus. I'm not really too bothered about what anyone else is doing. So, just a comment here. We have 654 health professionals on our site supporting Lucy. Many more are supporting who have not found us. So this is why I'm trying to raise more and more awareness so we can make that number bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'll try to do this as much as I possibly can. So Tiff is here saying just a quick hello. She's in Australia. It's Monday morning. Look forward to catching this later. Thank you for all the kind remarks that you've made, and your support is very, very much appreciated. A change of government might speed things up, but the numbers in Parliament mean an early election looks unlikely. Well, Labour aren't going to call an election, that's for sure, because it'll be calamitous for them. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have to rely on the legal system for the foreseeable future and just keep trying. Yeah, I'm just going a bit further down. I think Cheshire Police's full file consists of the 9 stillbirth babies in the same year as the indictment babies. It wouldn't surprise me if they had actually tried to accuse her of killing the unborn. Yeah, that's possible for sure. I don't know anything about it, but it's definitely possible. Just going a bit further down. Sarah Napton from The Telegraph would be an amazing guest. So I do know Sarah a little bit. I can't ask her onto the channel because as a journalist, she needs to retain her neutrality. It's always very difficult to get journalists. I know a few, but they are all very wary of coming onto something that is polemical when they're journalists. So I can't guarantee I'll ever get a journalist, but I'll put the feelers out occasionally. Just going a bit further down. Did Lucy ever explain her writing of the note? So she did give information on that in court. Unfortunately, it never went into the court case that she was informed to do that as part of an exercise, which we know to be true now. But there is a section where they go over the entire confession note. I think I covered that in a previous video some time ago, but the defense does go over it with her. So the court did hear information about it, but they did not do a very good job of dealing with that note, in my opinion. Just going a bit further down. Shouldn't Lucy have been worried, or warned, rather, sorry, that those stream of consciousness notes could be used against her in court? So that's a good point. The first thing is, she didn't consider them to be important, so no one may know that she kept them. She might be the only person that knows that the notes have been kept. In fact, she didn't even really think about the handover sheets. She was asked about the handover sheets, and she said, she was asked, "Do you have any medical documents in your house?" And she said, "No." And then they asked her, blah, 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 and she said, "Oh, I've taken some old handover sheets home. They're not really medical documents." So she might not even have remembered that the notes were in her house. They weren't important to her. So it's possible that no one even knew. So they couldn't warn her. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, they may have seen them as an item of, they wouldn't necessarily know what was written in the notes as well. So they may have seen them as an item of no significance. So I'll just scroll a bit further down. Is Lucy getting psychological support in prison? Yes, definitely. Hello, Karen. You've messaged me on Facebook, I believe, at some point, if I remember rightly. Yeah, she'll be getting psychological support. Firstly, she's on suicide watch when she first goes into court. And then as it goes on, she'll receive ongoing psychological support. One of the interesting aspects of this is the psychologist will sit down with her and try to counsel her about feelings of guilt and feelings of remorse for what she's done. Whereas Lucy will be sitting there going, "Well, I'm innocent, so I don't have any." So I'm not sure what exactly will happen, but it'll be interesting to be a fly on the wall of those sessions. Does Chris or anyone else know what bad thing happened? Yeah, I don't really want to discuss it on Mark's live stream. Basically, I could give a link out now, and I could say to everyone in the chat, "Do you want to come on the live stream?" Yes, I do. Here's the link, and you can come on. Because he's very trusting in that way, someone came on and did some bad stuff, basically, which is why I can't do it. But I would never do it, and I'm not being critical of Mark, because Mark and myself are friendly, and I have enormous affection for Mark, because everyone does, because he's a great person. But I would always be a bit more cautious because I'm not as trusting. And I love the people who follow, but it's so easy for one errant person to get in, and then they can do horrible, horrible things. So I'm just not going to allow that. Going a bit further down. You need to be careful who you give a live stream link to. If it gets out, you just need to stop and make a new one. So yeah, I would simply would not give it out to someone unless they were already approved to me, and it'll be done privately. So I'm just scrolling a bit further down. So someone said here, surely they can't do any worse with an inquisitorial system. So one of the things we have to be wary of is that miscarriages of justice and terrible court cases still occur in an inquisitorial system. I still believe it would have been superior for this, and I believe it would be superior going forward. But we should be aware that inquisitorial system is not a silver bullet solution. The first thing that must happen in accordance with that is efforts to improve the way that expert witnesses are selected. I've read the article out at the beginning of this stream. It's very clear that the way expert witnesses are selected is deeply inappropriate. So that, at the very least, that needs to be addressed. At the very least, the Law Commission's 2011 recommendations need to be enacted. And then, of course, the push for an inquisitorial system will be a long-term process because no one wants that. No one in positions of power want it. No one in the legal system wants it. There are a lot of influential people that do not want that. So we'd have to work very, very hard to get to that point. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you for supporting Lucy. And it's really my pleasure. Thank you for all the support, and I'll do that for as long as I've got breath in my body. Lucy will be out of prison before then with a bit of luck. Let's go a bit further down. There's some discussion of the note here. So as you've all discussed this amongst yourselves and have discussed it, I won't go over the note. I mean, it's been discussed a lot as well. So there's a comment about other media, so I don't really want to comment about that. I think Stephanie Davis could destroy the prosecution on her own. So she gave a very powerful speech. She spoke, I thought, brilliantly as well. And her talk yesterday will be online eventually, soon, hopefully. I don't know when exactly, but her talk is great. And I'm really glad for her that now she's getting back on her feet after what's been a very difficult time for her that she didn't deserve. I mean, that was one of the awful things for me, and that made me even more determined to fight than I was already. That two people that I know personally, that I like and that I care about, which was Stephanie and Martin, they have both been through the mill. They've both been screwed over so badly. And do you know why? Because they did the right thing and they listened to their conscience and said, I have to do this because it's the right thing to do. And they're both right intellectually. And yet they both suffered enormous consequences. So I won't allow that to happen to my friends without, fighting back. Let's go a bit further down. Yeah, let's still go down. So I'm just looking for some more questions. I heard online about the prison banning letters and mails and toys going to Lucy Letby, but not sure why. So we've heard now that she's getting stuff. So she's receiving stuff now. So please do send stuff to Mark and send stuff via the prison because we've heard she's getting stuff. So that was really great. So she knows that she will have a very good idea now of the level of support for her, if not an entirely. I don't think anyone, because the level of support. I think if you were there in prison, you couldn't believe that so many people are supporting you and so many people believe in you. But she will have an idea of it for sure. So 19ists are just saying we'll share some footage with Chris. We need to edit and sort first. So we're going to work that out between us. But I'll have some footage from the event on this channel, hopefully. Obviously, that's at their discretion. We'll sort it out between us. Just a bit further down. Yeah. Still going down. Hold on. Yeah, still going down. I think Mark McDonald and all her supporters are well aware of the content. As I said, Chris has done a brilliant video on them. This is the notes, even one that is not really shared publicly. So one thing I do want to ensure is that Mark knows about that note. In fact, I need to make sure that happens. I really need to make sure that happens. Right, I'm just gonna make a note for myself to make sure I do that because I haven't done that yet, and he needs to know about that. I've been doing so many things; it's difficult to keep on top of everything. But that note needs to be part of the public domain because even today, people who know the case inside out, know loads about the case, don't know about that note. So I will make a note to myself, and I'll make sure Mark knows about it. But they have the notes. I'm really pleased to see that they have the notes very much in hand. And that's been a team effort from people that are involved in the campaign, making sure that Mark is aware of the importance of it and the contextual importance. It's important, the Kathleen Folbig case. So this has all been communicated to him through multiple people, through multiple efforts. I even had people that I was willing to help connect him with to go into the defence. That's probably not going to happen now because they've got someone who's fantastic. I've got someone fantastic who's in my book, who's looked at the notes and said made many salient points. But they're dealing with the notes well, so I'm pleased about that. So we're just going a little bit further down. I don't think this will go to retrial because it will be too embarrassing for too many professional people. That's a distinct possibility. But it's also very embarrassing for the Crown Prosecution Service if they just say, you know what, we can't even raise enough of a case to do the retrial. So that will always be a big aspect of the case. Let's go a little bit further down. So I'm catching up now. Catching up because there's been a bit of discussion. Just going a little bit down. Does Lucy know about this channel? I don't really know. I think it's unlikely because she hasn't got the internet in prison. I wouldn't ask someone to mention it to her. I think it's quite likely that she'll find out about it eventually. When that it will be, I don't know. But right, so I'm just going to have to kick someone out now because you can't say that. It's not acceptable. Let's go a little bit further down. How many operational changes were put in place in late 2016 at the Council of Chester? Neonatal unit was a cost-saving programme abandoned in 2017 at the Council of Chester. How many deaths occurred at the Council of Chester neonatal unit from 2017 to 2025? So let's take those questions one by one. So I'm going to ask Michelle more about the operational changes that were made at the Council of Chester. The key one is that they stopped taking infants that were in the higher risk categories. That's very significant. Was a cost-saving programme abandoned in 2017 at the Council of Chester? So Michelle was explaining to me today, well, not today, because I haven't seen her today, 2 days ago, the extraordinary waste of money that the Council of Chester has been guilty of that is truly incredible. Amazing, unbelievable. So as for the cost-saving programme, I'm not sure whether that's really gone into place. With regard to the number of deaths, we cannot say that definitively because individual figures are not released for years, so no one knows. The only reason we know in Lucy's case is because it was a major criminal case, but they don't give individual figures. So we can't answer that question. I have a huge problem with the professionals not being allowed to step forward. It's like everyone anywhere near Lucy was told to hush her out. It's totally wrong that nurses are not allowed to speak in a court case and they're told, oh, it could damage your career, as we know from this Daily Telegraph article. That's disgusting. It's disgraceful. Whether it would have made a difference, I don't know, but clearly, undoubtedly, Lucy should be allowed character witnesses if it's a fair trial, which of course we know it isn't. Does anyone following this have experience of being falsely accused of NAI by the NHS? I certainly don't, but if anyone does, please comment. Does anyone know why the police searched Lucy Letby's parents' house? Yeah, it's the only thing they can do. They can't do anything else. So they just like to think they're contributing something to the investigation. That's why they're so proud of their handover sheets. Initially, the initial search of Lucy's house is to identify her. According to Peter Hitchens, has basically said that, I think that's fairly clear because what did they think they were going to find in the garden? Obviously, they didn't find anything. So they just do that to identify the suspect, essentially. And then she was named. Fairly low, if you ask me. Evening, Lucy Letby Analysis, DJ Darkside Jungle. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Just going a bit further down. Still going further down. I understand how in a courtroom, everyday normal individuals can be entrusted to make a medical legal decision when they are not trained. Of course, this is a massive problem, David. The extent to which the jury is put on a pedestal, and of course they're just average people. They don't they don't have any particular qualifications or any particular ability to understand the evidence. Why would they? But then people will say, "Oh, but the jury decided this. The jury decided this." Yes, so what? It's just 12 random people. So yeah, it's very, very difficult in a case like this. They're so reliant on expert evidence, of course. So if the expert evidence is bad, it's a disaster. So in a case such as this, it's calamitous that there's been such bad expert evidence that needs to be addressed. The jury, someone basically saying the same thing. The jury system has many flaws. They have to trust the word of a supposed expert who has probably been paid by one side or the other. Not really great truth-finding methods. Hard to disagree. Martin Pittman and Stephanie Davies are absolutely amazing. I agree. We're very lucky to have them on our side, and many other brilliant people. 19 nurses have had hundreds. Let me just read this slowly, so that we make this clear. 19 nurses have had hundreds of health professionals contact them with horror stories after whistleblowing. The toxicity needs to change, and it's very disturbing for me. I can't say that I've come into contact with hundreds definitively, but it's definitely dozens of people that have experienced this toxic culture for one way or another. I mean, the story of Martin Pittman is incredible. His speech and talk is incredibly powerful. I know people will be moved by it when that goes online. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal. And you would hope it was a one-off, but that comment alone from 19 nurses says it's not a one-off. Let's scroll down a bit further. Thank you for your devotion to injustice, Chris. It's honestly just something that's within me. I felt this way since I was a child. I don't know why, but ever since I was a very young person, I always felt strongly about injustice. And I remember, like, a lot of boys can be very cruel, as you probably know, and I never was. I was always very sensitive and kind. Bit of a wuss, really, but that's just the way I am. I don't know why I am that way. I can't give you any good explanation for it, but if I see injustice, I feel passionately about it. I always want to stick up for an underdog, and there can be no worse injustice in this case, as far as I can see. I find it disturbing that Brewery and J-Ram are still in post. Yeah, hard to disagree. So there's a comment here. You write her name and date of birth and prison address on the front of the envelope. On the reverse of the envelope, send a name and address. So that is the method for writing to Lucy. Amanda Knox is a great idea. So Amanda is very much in demand. I don't have any easy way to approach Amanda. Amanda is a very busy person, but Amanda is a supporter of Lucy. I know, and whether I could get her on or not, I don't know, but she's a supporter of Lucy. You have had so many excellent guests. My favourite has been Professor Jane Hutton. I was originally piqued to the injustice by the statistics. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. I was obviously enormously privileged to have Jane. Jane was amazing. I didn't know what she was going to say, but she didn't pull any punches. And I mean, I'm really proud that she came on the channel. The Court of Appeal can refuse to allow a retrial. I'm not sure of the exact test they apply though. That's very interesting. I did not know that. one of these days I'll get to join live. Huge love and admiration to you all fighting for Lucy and fighting for justice. Thank you for being here, Marion. The live will be recorded, of course, so it will go live relatively soon after this is over on YouTube, so people can watch it tomorrow. Of course, I've made a video about the 19 Nurses event that you can watch as well, and then tomorrow there's going to be Tuesday, there'll be an interview going live as well. Hi, Chris. Do you intend to do a video about the consultants piquing the police's interest report? Yes, I do. That report is very interesting. It's one of many ideas that I'll be doing at some point. But yeah, it is interesting to look at that video. At that report in a video, and I definitely will be doing that. Running around, Chris. We'll catch up with this pod later. Congrats on the format. Unexpected info should come from it. Lucy's silence means there's more to this case than there is in public domain. Thank you, Sean, and thank you for your many comments and your support that are both very much appreciated. Let's go a bit further down. I'm catching up. I'm nearly up to the present minute. If the County Chester remains a level 1 unit, it doesn't need a neonatologist inside, does it? Well, it didn't have one that was a level 2 unit. So I don't know what the rules are, but they didn't have one as a level 2 unit. So they will. It's very unlikely they'll be upgraded. Very unlikely, because firstly, they've been downgraded for a long time. Secondly, they've shown no sign of improvement. And thirdly, it would be an incredibly controversial decision. So I really can't see that happening. They dig the garden up so the media can release a name. Exactly true. That's the reason they do it. So the media can find out, oh, this is so-and-so's house. And then before you know it, she's named. Then the police can say, oh, we never named her. This is all just a very unfortunate consequence of things that we had no control over, which is what Mr. Hitchens was talking about and saying, what an incredible coincidence the media happened to be there, which is a fair comment. Yeah, so regarding Guna, the reason I kicked him out was he used a word which is unacceptable about someone else, and I won't tolerate that. One nurse who I'm so proud of for her honesty asked to return to court after seeing Gibbs and Harkness evidence, saying they did not turn the monitor off. The nurse said they later apologised. Yeah, that was a big contribution. Refusing treatment can get you accused of Munchausen's, and social services can remove them from your care. Dr. Evans worked with the doctor making such a false allegation. So I've always been careful about. So yesterday we had a very moving speech by someone whose son had sadly passed away due to medical negligence. It was very moving. I've always been I've always been careful of two things. Firstly, this is a channel that focuses on Lucy Letby and related topics. And secondly, I always have to be careful of legal considerations, because if I was to say something that is libelous, or if I was to say something that legally can't, it is problematic, then. So I'm always very careful about what I say and what I don't say, and try to stick to Lucy's case as much as possible, because I know it inside out, and I know when I'm on safe ground, and I know when I'm on shaky ground. So I felt very sorry for the father, and I may have him on at some point, but I had to be so careful about having someone on who's talking about a subject that I know nothing about, basically. Even though I was very moved by his talk, and it'll be published online so you can see it. Just going to go a little bit further down. Is it true that all the clever people never end up on a jury because they are too important and can get out of it? Well, the cleverer they are, the easier it will be for them to get out, or the more likely they can get out. I don't know if there's any truth in that statement, but the nature of being clever is that you can more likely to get out of things. Just going further down, because you have a good heart, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just going a bit further down. Susan, you have hit on something there. The police are allowed to be questioned by an equal or one rank above when being investigated. Maybe that's what should happen in court when medical meets the law. It's clear that the existing system, as it works now with a jury, doesn't work. Now, I'm not going to sit here and call for jury trials to go, because it's not my place to do that, and I don't have a good answer as to what would come in its place. It's clear that the jury, if there are going to be juries, I mean, I've spoken to people who are top experts who have said, I don't think juries can understand certain trials in certain cases, and I have no reason to disagree with that. However, if we're going to get rid of juries, we need an alternative, and in this case, our alternative would probably have been judges making the decision, and that would not have worked out any better, it seems. So I don't have an easy answer, but we do need to consider, certainly, at the very least, the information that's given to judges need to be much better. Yeah. So someone's talking about Michelle being exceptional and Professor Morley answering my question in the comments. So as I say, all these people have been brilliant. Everyone that I've got to know involved with this case has been fantastic, and I'm really, really proud of the people I've been able to bring on. I'm really proud to be part of everything that we've been doing. So there's a question about if Judith Moritz follows me. I think that's very unlikely. So 19 Nurses is saying they have a new smart new unit, so they may get upgraded at some point. Yeah, they've spent a lot of money on that. It's an extraordinary amount of money that's gone into that. It's possible they could be upgraded, but that would be the person that has to sign off on that one is making a big decision. Let's just say that. I wouldn't want to be the person that said, yes, we're upgrading the Council of Chester. What a great idea. So we'll see. We'll see. I nearly caught up now. What is prison life like at HBM pre-Bronzefield? So I can tell you exactly what Lucy's life will be like. Lucy will be on a protected wing. Lucy will be in solitary confinement. Lucy will be very, very closely monitored so she doesn't commit suicide. Lucy will have had to befriend other people on the protected unit, which is basically serial killers. And people who've committed other very violent crimes. In a male prison, I won't say that because the system doesn't like it when you talk about that. But yeah, there's going to be some very serious criminals, and she will, if she has friends, she'll have to befriend them, and she won't be in the general prison population. Her life will be absolutely regimented. She'll have to do the same things at the same time every day. Most of the time, her door will be locked. What I can say is, with good behaviour, you're afforded certain things. So you're afforded a PlayStation. Lucy doesn't strike me as a video gamer, sadly. I'd probably be perfectly happy in prison as long as I didn't have to speak to the prison I would be a bit scared as I'm going into prison population, because despite the comment about me potentially being a bouncer, I'm not going to be good in a prison situation against the kind of people that are in prison, sadly. But if you gave me writing materials, a PlayStation, I'd be perfectly happy. The PlayStation 2, I believe they give them. If you get me San Andreas and Gran Turismo and one of the FIFA games, maybe a cricket game, maybe a snooker game, I'd be perfectly happy. And I could write every so often. It'd be a bit disappointing that no one was publishing my writing. But yeah, they give them music, they give them TV. They're not just sat there in a grey room with nothing to do. They are permitted a certain level of dignity, as they should be, because being in prison is the punishment. I know that the women are allowed certain comforts, such as the hair curlers and straighteners or whatever. I don't know much about that. You may have noticed my hair would not be able to be curled or straightened. So yeah, it's not great for her, but it's not completely without hope and not completely without something to do. We've heard these stories that she can buy chocolate. I did see this thing. I forget who it was. I think it was Ross Kemp, actually. He used to be in EastEnders, and he was eating prison food. And I saw it, and I thought, that looks okay. And he ate it. And he said, that was all right. That wasn't bad. So there's okay food. For me, it would be below the standard that I like to eat, because I like to cook a bit, and I like to eat good food. So I would be very disappointed with the prison food. But I mean, she would have been missing a cat. She would kill her that she wouldn't be around for cats. She obviously broke down in tears when she saw her cats. But life in prison is not quite as bad for her. as you might think, or you might hope, or might believe, rather not hope. But it's tough. It's tough. It's very. The hardest thing for Lucy is she's a solitary person. She's not a solitary person, rather. She's a social person. She likes going out and doing things. It's very clear from her images that she likes to have friends. She likes to do social things. And that's obviously taken away to a great extent, almost entirely, in fact. So, that's tough on her, but we just got to get her out. Just going a bit further down. So some comments on Brewery and Jairam here. Someone can't hear the audio, but I think the audio is fine because no one said anything. So I'm not sure what the problem is, but maybe you've muted something by mistake. As far as I'm aware, everyone can hear the audio. So there's not much to do. So Moritz has said in the past she's aware of Pro Lucy sites and some of the content. She might learn something if she followed them more. I didn't know that. So she would be well advised to do that. What happened to Lucy's cats in her home? So her cats had to be rehoused. As this was 5 years ago now, I don't know if her house was. I don't know if her cats were rehoused when she was denied bail, or when she had to leave a house in Cheshire and was never allowed to go back to Chester again. But it's a long time ago and they may not be alive anymore, but they were rehoused. Lucy sold her house to help with the defence, I believe. So that went well. If I were accused, I would opt out with jury professionals if that were an option. I see your point for sure. Yeah. Are her parents involved in this work, or do they do their own thing? How are they doing, etc.? So her parents are keeping a very low profile, which is understandable. We don't know too much about her parents other than this must have been an enormous shock to their system, an enormous shock to their system of values, because I believe that they were people that believed in the system. And that is reflected in Lucy's attitude of, I will tell the truth, I will be exonerated because I've told the truth. So imagine her parents are living in a nightmare every day, and their whole system of values has been shattered. And they must be missing their daughter enormously. I know for a fact they were super, super proud of her. I know for a fact they were incredibly close. I know for a fact they did lots of things together as a family. A lot of this is in public domain as well. So they're suffering. They're suffering. So my last question I've got here is the perjury inquiry. So that will just never come to fruition because it would destroy the Cheshire Police case completely. So that's it. So I've answered all the questions. So there's still a few comments. So to finish, I'll try and get Keeks up. We'll see if we can get Keeks up. You coming up? Right. Let's see if this works. Would you like something to eat? Would Kiko like something to eat? Yes, she would. Yes, she would. But you can't leave immediately because you're here to say hello. So we can't get down. Would you like a biscuit? Would you like a biscuit? There she is. That's the way to get her up, as you've probably seen. So thank you very much for joining me. Very much appreciative, and thanks for everything you're doing for Lucy. Kiko doesn't care about being a star on television. I've made a sincere promise to her now, so I have to leave now. So thank you very much for all of your comments and for being here. Very consistent, 150 viewers all the way through. So that's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, this live stream will be available pretty soon after it's terminated, and then there will be a new video on Tuesday, which will be an interview. So last question is about Kiko. So she's not named after Samuel Keats. Kiko is a Japanese word that means something like blessing from above. It means like gift from above or blessing from above in Japanese. I didn't name her, but I do like that name. Yeah, thank you for your comments, everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for being here.